My wife has changed a lot since we lost our baby. My, male 26, wife, female 29, and I had a baby due in April. She was going to be our first. Unfortunately, in January my wife had a medical emergency and we wound up losing our daughter. My wife has changed almost 100% into a different person since then. It has affected almost everything she does as a person, and it's like she's not even the woman I fell in love with anymore. A little bit of backstory on us. My wife and I have known each other for 5 years, have been a couple for 3 years, and have been married for almost a year now. I've had a really hard last couple of years, between my mother's passing and the premature end of my career as a professional athlete, and this amazing woman has been my rock. I feel like I've loved her from the minute I met her, and I've tried to be good to her and to let my feelings for her show through in the way I treat her. We were both so excited when we learned she was pregnant, and we were looking forward to adding a little girl to our family. Obviously, losing her has been incredibly hard on both of us, but it has been especially hard on my dear wife. She has always struggled with an anxiety disorder, and she's always been a little bit clingy, physically and emotionally. But lately her level of attachment has shot up past 11. I have to practically fight her to be able to leave for work in the mornings, and then when I'm gone, she sends me at least 20 texts. Mostly it's just about how much she misses me, but sometimes she would just send pictures of herself, and when I call her, I never get to talk. She just goes and vents, and is incredibly negative about everything, which is basically the opposite of what she used to be. I can't get any personal space at night in bed either. She's always been adamant about cuddling through the entire night, but she's been holding me so tight lately that it gets hard to breathe. Even after I'm sure she's got to be asleep, it's like sleeping in a clinch hold with a Muay Thai fighter every night, and she can't seem to go an hour or two without needing to be kissed. And our sex life has changed a lot too. We used to be fairly active, about 2 or 3 times a week, but now it's up to almost twice or more a day, every day, and when I don't want it. On the times when I'm not really feeling up to it, I protest a little at first, but she doesn't listen, and she just seems like she wants it so bad that I don't want to hurt her feelings and turn her down. And when we're having sex, it's like we only do stuff that she's into, and I don't get any say in what we do, and it's just all about what satisfies her. It almost feels like sex is turning into a thing I have to do for her to keep her happy, instead of a thing we do together because we love each other. And she'll get upset over the littlest things, so almost everything is a fight. I didn't push in my chair all the way getting up from the table yesterday, and I got screamed at. I've been seeing the same therapist since I was 16, and she's like a second mother to me, and my wife has asked me to not see her anymore because she doesn't trust her. She also wants me to stop taking my college courses so I can finish my degree, and when I go to hang out with my friends, whom she thinks are all idiots and reminds me every time we talk about them lately, it's like I'm leaving to go and never come back. I understand that her mental health is not great at this point in time, and I want to be there for her and support her in any way I can. I want to get through this together with the love of my life, and to come out on the other side and watch the sunrise after a very dark night. She means everything to me, but too often it feels like the person she is right now is not the woman I married. Edit. Yes, I understand she needs therapy. Background info on her. She spent a fair amount of time as a teenager in a psychiatric facility, and therapy and therapists are some of her least favourite people. She went to 2 sessions after we first lost our daughter, but refuses to go back. When I bring it up, she gets super angry, hits me. She's not that strong, I'll be okay. And then starts crying and needs to be held. Yeah, I agree with that edit. I'm not usually one to just kind of lump on the idea of therapy to fix a problem. I feel like sometimes it can seem a bit like putting a band-aid on a broken leg. But for this instance, I definitely think she needs to see a therapist and talk about, the loss of the child and all of those grievances and stuff, Because at the moment she is physically and mentally abusing OP. Ain't no other way to say it, really. Alright, let's jump to the comments. OP elaborates a bit more. More about his own therapist. My therapist really has been like a second mother for me though. I started seeing her when I was a kid in the foster system, and she stuck with me through some of the worst years of my life, more than my actual mother did. To be honest, my number one dream as a kid was that she would adopt me. Future plans. I have no intention of divorcing my wife. I intend to stick by her thick and thin. I would love for her to go to therapy or to reach out to friends, Sorry for trying to get some time off my chest in the get this off my chest place. Edit. We were talking today and she agreed to start going to couples therapy and to see her OBGYN this week. She asked me if I was happy and if I still loved her. I guess she overheard me talking with my therapist on the phone about our sex life last week, and she overheard some harsh truths. She wants to be well again and she's willing to try whatever it takes to get there. Here's a recommendation from a commenter. Maybe a grieving mothers group. It'll help her get out of the house and connect with others who have experienced similar loss. It's not a one-on-one session with a therapist, which I think is what she finds so intimidating. She has nowhere to escape if the focus is entirely on her problems. In a group setting, she can fly under the radar, but the conversations will make her feel less alone, and she might find healthier coping mechanisms. Your wife aside, this is a scary situation for you, because she's made it clear that the closest she's let herself get to expressing her grief is by using you. She needs to let herself get angry. She focuses it on you not pushing the chair in. She wants to cry. She hurts you, then cries out of guilt. She wants to feel comforted. She hugs you, even in her sleep. She wants to feel loved. She guilts you into sex, ignoring your boundaries and your desire for gratification. This is an awful situation to be in, especially after the loss of your child. She's not letting you grieve. She's not really letting herself grieve. She's just avoiding it with compulsion after compulsion. Find a bereavement group for parents who have lost a child and get her to go with you. Even if she doesn't go, you need a safe space to share your grief that isn't solely with your therapist. As cliche as it is, the saying is true. Misery loves company. Connecting, or even just listening to others who have lost a child, will help you, especially as April approaches. Okay, let's jump to the first update. I made a post here last night, and it has gotten several hundred comments urging me to do what I've been trying to get the courage to do for a long time, directly confronting my wife about her behaviour since losing our baby. I finally did it. She agreed to at least go to couples counselling and to schedule an appointment with her OBGYN. She agreed that the way she is processing the grief of losing our daughter is really harmful and self-destructive. She even recognised that the person she has been becoming is not someone she wants to be and wants to seek extra help. She's not huge on doctors, therapists, psychologists or nurses due to spending time in a psychiatric facility as a teenager, but she's willing to bite the bullet there if it means getting the help she agrees she needs. I'm so in love with her and I'm so happy she has decided to get help. I'm going to be with her every step of every mile of this journey with her. And now for the second update. Therapy difficulties. I feel obligated to write this and continue updating people here because of the many kind responses and genuine attempts at offering advice and support. My wife and I were supposed to be attending couples therapy together yesterday evening. We were lucky enough to have been able to get an appointment so soon. I was anticipating not being able to get in with a couples therapist for at least another 2 weeks, but we lucked out and were able to get one this week. My wife and I were supposed to meet each other there after I got off of work and out of class, and then go get dinner afterwards. The appointment is at 6:30. I get out of class at 6, hustle across town to get there, still show up 3 minutes late, expecting her to already be there. She loves being places early, and I didn't notice her car in the parking lot. I figure it's whatever, this is a business park with a lot of parking spaces. She's definitely here. She promised me this morning she would be here, and I go into the lobby, talk to reception, and ask about seeing this doctor. Doctor's in, but my wife definitely is not. Okay, no big deal, she's probably just late, because traffic is awful in this horrible nightmare city, so I call her, and it rings all the way through, which is kind of weird. Wait another 10 minutes, no call back, and I try again, still nothing. I wait another 5 minutes, and now it doesn't even ring, like she turned her phone off. So obviously the appointment winds up not happening, and I'm worried about the safety and well-being of my wife, because it's not like her to not return my calls, or to be late to stuff or skip appointments without notification. Her anxiety errs more on the I have to be super punctual type of anxiety. So I head home, and lo and behold, my wife's car is in the parking lot of our complex. I head into the apartment, and she's on our bed, just watching porn on the TV and masturbating. Apparently that's what she's been up to all day while I've been at work and at school, trying to provide for us. And she was so nonchalant about it too, like it's the most natural thing in the world for her to be doing at that time. Obviously, I'm a little shocked. I'm not a porn guy. I think it's actually super unhealthy and overall does more harm to individuals psychologically than any good that empty instant sexual gratification can do. I don't think watching porn while in a relationship is cheating, but I don't love it. She and I will be having that conversation later, and her watching porn isn't what I'm really upset about right now anyways. It's the fact that of all the reasons to blow off our appointment with a couples therapist to help her cope with all the crap that's been going on lately with the loss of our daughter and everything related to that, hers is because she was too busy watching some other chick get railed in a gangbang. I get that she's not in a good place and that she hasn't been well mentally or emotionally for months now. I get that it's affected her decision making. I get that going and seeing therapists and doctors and doing that whole thing is scary for her and not something that she has much desire to put herself through, even though she understands that it's probably exactly where she needs to be. I get that she's bored at home after having taken a sabbatical from her job. I get that her hormones have been entirely out of whack since January, and that sex just helps her not feel so terrible all the time. I get that she was basically alone when we lost our daughter, and that the way she lost our baby is a million times worse than the way I lost our baby. I understand all of that. But I still have to go to work so we can eat and pay our bills and rent, and come home and get yelled at for putting the dishes in the dishwasher the wrong way or whatever, and then not get any sleep at night because we're up till 2 in the morning because she got horny and will cry for hours if I don't do it. If that's the way life is till we can beat this thing together, then that's the way it is, and I can tough it out for her sake. But the absolute least that she can do is show up when she's agreed to show up so that we can beat her depression, so that she can get better and be well again. So I stayed at a friend's place last night, and I think I'm crashing on his couch again tonight. My wife has called 6 times and texted 90 times, and it went from asking if I remember coming back, to begging me to just come back, to rants that I haven't read about how sorry I'm going to be, back to begging me to come home. I made the mistake of answering one of the calls, and when I tried to explain that I'll come home when I'm ready to come home, and that I still love her and still want to be with her, that I'm just really hurt and upset and need space, she screamed at me like I've never, ever in my entire life been screamed at before, about how I'm probably cheating on her right now, and how I've abandoned her, and how dare I. How dare you was repeated a lot. I don't really know what my criteria is for feeling ready to go back is either. I think at first it was when I felt like she was genuinely ready to talk, and not just yell or have a meltdown. But then I remembered that, frick, she and I have already talked about this, and that didn't do anything. I think I'll call her when I get off work, and give her the ultimatum of actually going to therapy or a facility, or just anything that's a step in the right direction, or our relationship might have to be put on hold until she gets everything figured out. Edit. I am already in therapy. I've been meeting with my excellent friend and doctor for over 10 years now. I was one of her first patients and clients when she was fresh out of school, and she was one of the only people who consistently gave a crap about me when I was a kid in the foster system. Opie tells more in the comments. She never yelled at me in an angry way before we lost our daughter. When she got mad at me, it was completely different. She was more of a cold mad. Now she's a fire mad, if that makes sense. My therapist thinks I should push the idea of a treatment facility. I just know that if I do that, I'll lose my wife. She would never forgive me for that. Oh gee, what do you reckon, guys? I don't think there's a good ending to this. Seems like the wife is kind of checked out. Hopefully they can turn it around, but yeah, I just don't see any good outcomes here. Alright, let's jump to the next update. It's titled, My Wife is in a Psychiatric Care Facility. This is kind of an update to my previous posts. I've been thinking a lot about why I posted on here in the first place, but I think it basically boils down to this being more or less a journal for myself. And if people have some good advice or are able to sympathise even a little bit, then I'll take what I can get. I don't have a lot of in-real-life friends, and the ones I do have I'm not close enough with to really vent to about super personal stuff. I have my therapist and my last pair of foster parents and some old friends I met at a boys' home I used to live at, and that's about it. This being basically anonymous means I don't have to worry too hard about being judged by co-workers or other people in my congregation, I guess. I keep posting because it seems like a bunch of people might have gotten maybe a little invested in the well-being of my wife and myself, and I think it would be a little scary and sad to not know if the people whose story you have graciously listened to are okay or not. It feels really exhibitionistic and weird, and a bunch of people have followed this burner Reddit account. And it feels like this is just juicy in real life, watch someone else suffer entertainment for some people. This post isn't for them, it's for the nice people who I think might be worried about me and my wife. Thanks everyone who has tried to be nice and supportive, but I think this is the final post about this. My wife has had an extremely rough time since we lost our baby to a miscarriage in January, and has practically refused treatment or therapy of any kind. She's been incredibly difficult to be around, and I've been super worried about her for months now. I recently had to take a couple days break away from her after she no-showed an appointment we had agreed to attend together with someone I thought would be able to help her. My in-laws were able to step in and help get my wife into a psychiatric care facility. I've been talking with them about the whole situation after I made the decision to get some space after the missed appointment. They dropped everything and travelled like 3 hours to us and went by to check on her. My mother-in-law and I have kind of teamed up, which is a miracle because she really does not like that her only daughter married me, of all people. My in-laws and I went by the apartment, and they went in first to talk to her, and then they brought me in. We more or less had an intervention, and my in-laws were able to talk her into going to get treatment. I stayed home with her that night, and took the next day off of work to drive her there myself. She was really freaking out, but I think she knew that voluntarily taking a mental health break somewhere she can actually get help was the right decision. I'm really proud of her. My wife has already been officially diagnosed with bipolar disorder and postpartum depression, on top of her already existing anxiety disorder. I'd kind of started suspecting her having bipolar. I thought getting a diagnosis would be a lot harder and there would be more hoops to jump through. Just getting the diagnosis is a relief, because now she can actually get medication and targeted help directly at what she's facing. She still has another day left there, and as her spouse I'm actually not allowed to visit, which I really hate. I way underestimated how much I would miss her. I think I get how a dog waiting for his owner to get home from work feels. My in-laws, however, are able to visit, and their reports have been about as positive as it can get. My wife misses me too, and she's been fairly lucid and calm since going in, and so far it's been more positive than not. And obviously this is probably going to be something that she'll need support with for the rest of our lives. I'm pretty sure that it just doesn't go away, but it really does feel like a genuine, true, legitimate first step in the right direction, and with the right help, we can actually beat this thing. One of the craziest things that has happened throughout this entire process over the last few days has been the way my mother-in-law has started treating me. She actually hugged me and told me she was sorry about me losing our daughter, which is the first hug she's ever given me. And I never in my life expected her to ever have any sympathy for me. My father-in-law has always been much kinder, but it didn't seem like this was something he'd asked her to do. This was just her being nice to me, which I never expected. As for me, I attended a grieving father's support group, and it was like super pessimistic sadness circle jerk. Just made my evening sadder, and I don't think I'll go back. At least to that same one anyways. I'm going to take a week off of work after this semester of school is over, and we're going to go visit where I'm from back in Texas. And we'll stay with my parents. Getting out of this long winter will be good for both of us, I think, and I haven't seen them since my wedding back in May. I'm a little cautious to get excited though. The last time I thought we were making progress wound up being me getting my expectations way too high, and then being very disappointed. But it does feel like the sun is rising a little bit, if that makes any sense. And then OP provides an update one day later. She's home. This is the start of the rest of forever. Oh well, that's good news. Great to see that she was willing to get the help that she needed. Alright, now OP writes a bit of an Am I the A-hole post in the comments, now deleted. My wife has been really big into filming her and myself while we have sex lately. It seems like it's almost every time now. She has said that she keeps them for herself, and it's been a way to keep herself satisfied when the hypersexuality hits because of her bipolar disorder. She thinks that one of our videos is really hot, and that if we posted it to a porn website, it would do really well. She said the idea of a bunch of strangers masturbating to us really turns her on, and has been nagging me about it at least once a day for the last couple of days. I really don't like the idea of A, other people watching my wife and I have sex, B, other people seeing my wife naked in this kind of context. If anything, the idea of other people masturbating to us really pees me off. And when I went with her to hang out with her friends yesterday, One of them, who has a big OnlyFans following and a part-time job instead of a full-time job, put me on the spot about it and said, she later claimed this was just a joke, that she would introduce my wife to a guy who would be willing to make a video with her to post online. I lost my temper with her and it turned into a shouting match, and then my wife and I left. I get that I shouldn't have yelled, but I was so mad. In the car, I caught a lot of heck for freaking out on her friends over a joke. I really did not read her comment about introducing my wife to a guy that would F her on camera as a joke at all. I get that my wife has a right to vent to her friends, and I'm glad that she has people she can talk to besides me. I just think that her friend was wrong to put me on the spot about it, and that her joke was way out of line. And I don't want to be the husband that tells his wife he can't see her friends anymore, but I don't feel entirely comfortable with her seeing and hanging around with these people. Oh, right, so that's the end of that one, guys. It got a little bit weird at the end there. What do you think? Is OP the a-hole? To be honest, I don't think so there. Perfectly understandable to lose your temper over a comment like that. It is out of line. I agree. Either way, let me know what you guys think in the comments. My son cut contact with me 4 years ago due to getting involved with his friend. He contacted me 2 days ago and wants to meet up this Friday. Note, I understand that coming on this subreddit made me open to criticism. I know I'll be judged, but I'm here to learn how to improve the situation. I had my son at the age of 21 years old. His father passed away 2 years later, so it was me and my son against the world. When it came to my dating life, I haven't been so lucky. I did have some random hookups here and there and very short-term relationships throughout my son's childhood. In the beginning of my son's senior year, he brought a friend home. Let's call him Max. He was basically at our house every other weekend. I was really happy because my son doesn't have a lot of friends. He usually keeps to himself. I really liked Max as a person. He was a really sweet guy. We've had nice short conversations whenever he was at our place. We exchanged numbers just in case. He would start sending me messages and jokes. I would respond back. My son didn't mind at all. After 4 months of coming to our house, Max texted me he wants to meet up for coffee out of nowhere. I texted him if it was something urgent or about my son. He responded by saying it's something important. I was curious, so I decided to meet up with him. When I met up with him, he looked very nervous. I asked him what was the meeting about. He told me I can't tell my son about it. He then confessed to me that he was developing feelings for me. I was taken aback by this. I told him that while I was flattered, I had to think about my son. He pleaded with me to just give him a chance. It was so long that I found somebody interested in me like that. Max was already 18 when he was introduced to me, and he was a very handsome man. I said yes, but with the condition that it would be only casual dating, and my son doesn't have to know about it. We met up the next week at his place. I told my son I was going out with my friends. After an hour into the date, we slept with each other. Then we promised to meet up in the close future. Our meetups became very frequent, and as such our relationship grew stronger. I was beginning to fall in love with Max. We learned more about each other. Max was becoming my main source of joy. I wanted the weekend to start early just to be with Max. It was hard for me to pay attention to anything else in my life. Looking back, it seems that my relationship with Max had a negative effect on the relationship with my son. I had to come up with different excuses on why I wasn't around. I missed out on his soccer games. I think I really messed up when I missed his birthday dinner because I was with Max. I told him that work held me up. It was a week before my son's flight to college that I got a text from Max that my son found out about us. I got it in the middle of work. I was scared to go back home. When my son arrived home, he never uttered a word about the situation. He just pretended that nothing ever happened. He seemed very cold to me, never looked me in the eye and gave one-word responses. When it came to dropping him off, he didn't even give me a hug or even look back at me when it was time for the flight to even wave goodbye. When I drove back home, Max's car was in my driveway. It was the first time I saw him ever since I got that text from him. I saw he had a black eye and a broken nose when he stepped out of his car. We hugged each other tightly. I cried in his arms. Once we stepped in my house, I told him how bad I felt to what I did to my son. The worst part is, I wasn't sad my son was leaving, but relieved instead. Max comforted me in saying he's just as much at fault for this situation. Max stayed that night. The next day, he proposed to me. I accepted. It's been 4 years now. Max and I have a 2-year-old daughter. He works as a mechanic. The airport was the last time I saw my son. He blocked me on everything. I asked his grandparents if he ever contacted them. His grandfather told me that my son told them everything. He said he will take care of my son, but he told me to never contact my son or them again. 2 days ago, I got a call from my son that he's going to be in town and he wants to meet up in person this Friday. I said yes. What should I do or say when I meet him? Jesus Christ, that's a bit complicated, isn't it? The age gap kind of weirds me out a bit. I don't know about you guys, let me know in the comments, but the age gap is a bit too much for me to get my head around, especially when it's your son's friend. That's just a little bit too much for me. But yeah, let me know what you guys think and whether or not you can see this working or not. On to the update. For the few that gave me actual advice, I went to meet up with my son without Max or my daughter. It was at a local coffee shop. I found him sitting in one of the booths at the coffee shop. He was on his phone. I was really scared. A part of me wanted to tackle him with a big hug and beg for his forgiveness. Another part of me wanted to leave before he noticed me. I said his name to get his attention. He didn't even leave his seat. He just looked at me and said hi. I asked if I could sit. I started asking about how he's doing. He said he was fine. I was about to apologize, but he interrupted me by saying, "Before you apologize, I want to understand how the relationship between Max and you even started." I started telling him everything. When it came to mentioning my meetups, he interjected me and started asking me questions that were difficult to answer. He asked, "So, all the times that you were going out, you were lying to me about where you were going, weren't you?" I nodded. "What about the times I asked to spend time with you? Did you lie to me so you'd meet up with Max instead?" I started tearing up. It was hard being there. "Did you miss out on events to be with Max? What about my birthday?" That's when I started crying. He told me to save my tears. He said he figured that out soon after he learned about the relationship with Max. He just wanted to hear it from me. He then asked me if I was still with Max. I told him I was married to him and I have a daughter with him. He seemed to need a minute to process that. Then he started speaking. He told me he never had an issue with me dating or meeting someone. In fact, he hoped I found love. He understands that I needed companionship and a type of love he couldn't offer as my son. He told me throughout all these years he felt conflicted because both Max and I were both consenting adults, and adults have a right to find happiness. My son admitted he shouldn't have hit Max and was glad he didn't press charges. He said despite all of that, there were some things that he can't get over. He told me he can't get over the fact that I didn't take him into consideration when it came to pursuing the relationship. It was also hurtful to realize that I would value a romantic relationship to the point of being willing to throw away a close relationship with him for it. If I had the attitude of being done raising him and finally pursuing my own life, then that's valid according to him. However, I would have no right to want to have a close relationship with him in return. Again, that's what he said he believes. He told me he would have forgotten me when he left for college. He would have wanted me to move closer to him after he got a job if he couldn't move close to me. In this ideal world, we would live close by so he would still see each other, even after he had a family. He said he loves himself and his life too much to have back in my life. My son said he works as a mechanical engineer now. He is engaged to the love of his life. She was also raised by a single mum like him until she was 16, when her stepdad stepped into the picture. Both of them have welcomed him into the family. He told me his future in-laws and his fiancée are his family now. He said he was getting a job near them. He finally admitted that he just wanted closure before permanently cutting me off. He told me not to contact him or his family at all. He made it clear he wouldn't be there for me at my last stage of life, or even come to my funeral. He made it clear he won't even hold my hand when I pass away. I won't have the privilege of knowing his fiancée or his future kids. He made it clear that if his half-sister ever contacts him as an adult, he'll be upfront on why he doesn't want a relationship with her. He said goodbye to me and left. I cried so hard that I got the attention of the people in the coffee shop. I was crying on the way back home. I don't even know how therapy can help. I never felt so much emotional pain in my life before. What do I do now? What the hell did I just read? I think that sometimes. I mean, you can't really blame the son at this point for hating his mum. She neglects him his entire life because she's sleeping with his friend. Like, I have no advice for this woman whatsoever. Just weird. Weird, man. Weird. Anyway, I want to pass it to you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know. And Honestly, I don't think there's any salvaging of this. I think she should just move on, accept the fact that the son wants nothing to do with her, and maybe working towards starting a new life with new relationships and better relationships for that matter. Okay, now on to the next one. This was posted by the throwaway account irreperably, and it's titled, "My fiancé returned an award he was given at work, and he thinks it's the reason he wasn't promoted." Hey guys, long-time lurker in need of some advice. My fiancé was recommended and given a training assignment some months back for a vacancy that would be opening, and he showed me a review at the end that he received where he received great remarks. However, to his surprise, he wasn't given the position, and he was the only person training for it. He's been feeling down the past couple of days, but he also told me something that I didn't know. A few weeks back, he was given an award in a meeting that he returned to his boss, same boss who recommended him for the vacancy, because he doesn't like awards, and he never told me about it either. He also told his boss he didn't appreciate being blindsided, and he admitted he was emotionally stressed from the meeting when he talked to him the same day. He also told him to never give him an award again, and he thinks that's the reason he didn't get the promotion. When I asked why he didn't tell me about it, he said that work was his space and that it didn't concern me, and that honestly hurt. He also said he's thinking about leaving the company, and he's been there since he interned in college. My mum said to suggest that he talk to a professional about why he was bothered by the award or our relationship, but Dad said I should reconsider because he created a fan to walk into that hurt his career. I want to see if he'll talk to a professional before reconsidering, but Dad said I shouldn't even give him a chance. I believe I'm making the right decision by seeing if he's open to it, not just for job stuff but also for our relationship, but I want to ask if I'm going about it correctly. Let's have a look at some comments for this one. I'm sure it did hurt his career. He was ungracious and humiliated his boss publicly. Really self-destructive thing to do in my opinion. Part of the corporate dance is smiling and saying thank you, then throwing the award in the trash when you get home. His boss probably interpreted his actions as rude and ungrateful. If he wants to climb the corporate ladder, he's going to have to play their games a little bit. There are certainly times to stand up for yourself in a work environment, but this was not the time. When they evaluate people for promotions and more responsibility, they look at their maturity and how they handle interpersonal situations, and he absolutely demonstrated how unready he was for more responsibilities. Let's jump right into the first update for this one. Update, March 1st, 2023. Before suggesting therapy, I asked him to further explain why he returned the award when everything seemed to be going well for him, and I want to remind you that he showed me a written review of his training assignment that he worked for a few months, that came back with great remarks, albeit nothing about returning the award that had nothing to do with it. He said that he viewed work awards similar to participation trophies that he wanted no part of, but when I asked if his reward was that, he said it was a certificate recognizing him for his work, along with training and assisting others, when his boss asked him to sometimes. Mostly on computer when someone didn't know how to do something, so he'd show them over Microsoft Teams. He specifically said it wasn't a participation award, but that he viewed all rewards the same. He also said it'd make it awkward when he helped people in the future because awards make people seem less genuine, and that returning it showed he was down to earth. When I asked why he couldn't just accept the reward and do whatever he wanted with it at home, he said it was a gesture to show he wasn't a management suck-up, and that he'd be the same person after getting promoted. He also said he saw someone lose friends at work after crossing over to management's side because it was an us versus them mentality, and he compared his gesture to the person who rejected the Nobel Peace Prize that he heard referenced in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. However, he knew nothing about it besides the reference because he loves Marvel movies and didn't even know the guy's name. But when I asked if he regretted it, since everything seemed to go well with his training before the issue he likely made for himself, he said he was considering suing the company because he was treated unfairly, and he wasn't open to therapy because he did nothing wrong. When I told him that it hurt when he said that his work life didn't concern me, he said there were many things he said at work that I wouldn't approve of, but that it was his space, just like managers who talk behind co-workers' backs. But when I reminded him that we were engaged, and incomparable to a co-worker-manager relationship, he said I wasn't supporting him and didn't want couples counselling either, and that's pretty much how it went. The reason I spoke to my parents before we talked was because of an idea he floated in my first post that I didn't mention, and I want to explain it because some said I threw him under the bus to my parents, so I'll explain why. He said he was considering working a retail job in the meantime after quitting because he thinks he hit a dead end, and he said he'd be more respected there too. The other reason I told my parents was because we were looking at a home to buy, but those plans have changed and he wants to stay in our apartment, and that was before he mentioned anything about suing the company. He said he didn't mind making less if it meant having more respect, and I was willing to try and work things out if he considered therapy or couples counselling. But now that he's refused and doubled down, I told him that I'm reconsidering, and he didn't like that and said I wasn't on his side like his boss, same boss who recommended him for the vacancy and gave him the award, and has been distant since. He slept by himself on the couch, and even ate dinner on his own the past few nights, and I'm trying to see if my parents can let me bring some stuff to their place come Friday. I feel like he threw everything away for no reason, got a great review on his training and made an issue out of nothing when there was none. Learning about everything he kept from me still hurts, and I might try and talk to someone myself. But it really hurts because he basically said I never knew him at his work, and maybe that's just how he is when he's not with me. And now for some comments. Your boyfriend has ego problems. He seems obsessed by the idea that his co-workers should respect him because he sticks it to the man. Has been clearly signalling to his boss that he isn't management material because he's concerned about being seen, not to be a suck-up, and is now surprised that his boss, who had previously considered him a good employee and attempted to promote his career through these opportunities and awards, is now hearing his message loud and clear and removing his support for the promotion after the boyfriend publicly embarrassed him. Like, his boss publicly recognised OP's efforts and simply had that thrown back in his face. And for what? His colleagues are unlikely to view his actions with anything other than bafflement. Your boyfriend is delusional, OP, and he needs help. His actions are self-sabotaging and destructive. Don't let him drag you down too. Everyone else is giving you good advice, so I just wanted to bring up something else. The guy he's quoting from Winter Soldier is Nick Fury, talking about Alexander Pierce, the guy who rejected the Nobel Peace Prize because he said peace wasn't an achievement, it was a responsibility. Alexander Pierce turns out to be the villain of that movie. Spoilers, but Pierce is a Hydra agent, the coded Nazi fascist antagonist organisation of the movies, and tries to / is about to kill millions of people for the sake of peace, before being stopped by Captain America. Like your boyfriend's apparently a Marvel fan, but looks up to the fascist genocidal maniac for his life quotes and work ethic. I mean, he's sort of destroying himself for the sake of his own ego, while also taking you down with him. Falls in line with a lot of Marvel villains, to be honest. Cap isn't the one rejecting the award. Now on to the final update. Returning to this because a lot of people reached out and were helpful, and I appreciate everyone who did. I'm currently at my parents', and my ex-fiancé was pestering me to move everything to their home before Friday when I eventually did, and it was really stressful. However, he did something that I didn't expect before I moved on Friday that I'm still dealing with, and a lot of friends and family know about it now because of what he did, before I got around to telling them. He made a Facebook post that was pretty long, and he posted it to Twitter too. Long story short, he addressed the co-workers about what happened with his promotion, and said that many of them were likely wondering what had happened, and that he wanted to explain his side before the wrong people did. He wrote that his bosses wrongfully rescinded the promotion because he told his boss that he didn't like awards, and he included the manager's name. He wrote about his conversation with his boss and how he respectfully spoke to him in his office, instead of refusing the award at the meeting because he wanted to show respect. He also said that his manager previously knew about his anxiety surrounding awards and chose to give it to him anyway, when he knew it would hurt his focus. But he never once mentioned anything about anxiety to me. He never mentioned anxiety in the past, and he never mentioned that he spoke to his boss about anxiety too. He also left out what he told me about how he was emotional when he spoke to his boss, and said some things he probably shouldn't have. He left out the part about being blindsided by the award, and don't ever give me any awards again. And my dad thinks he's lying about having talked to his boss about anxiety to look like a martyr. He thinks he made it up to draw pity, and the rest of his post made him think that too. When he wrote about how he was going to sue the company, he said he was doing it for others who may feel pressured to take awards in order to move up, and that he was fighting for them. He said it was unfair of his boss to refuse him for mental health reasons he knew beforehand, and he wanted to pave the way for others with mental health challenges. He also said he was inspired by NBA player Kyrie Irving, he's also a basketball fan, who refused to get vaccinated and sacrificed salary and backlash. The Brooklyn Nets didn't allow him to play for many games due to being unvaccinated, and to be a voice for the voiceless, for other people who didn't want to be vaccinated. And while he disagreed with Kyrie's stance on vaccinations, we're both vaccinated, he admired how he fought and forced the Brooklyn Nets to play him and cave as they struggled in the standings and injuries, and showed that corporations would eventually cave to employees. Like Kyrie, my ex-fiancé said he wanted to be a voice for the voiceless who felt pressured to accept awards to move up at his job. He also said he wanted to make management cave to him, and that was the reason he was suing for the employees. He also wrote that I had broken up with him because I didn't support his mental health condition just like his boss, but he never once mentioned anything related to mental health to me ever. Heck, he even left out all the details about how he told his boss off, and my dad said he might be making it up to create a case when he knows he has none, or just wants to smear the company. Dad has also begun calling him the fake Captain America from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and he showed me some clips about the TV show when I asked what he meant. Going back to my ex-fiancé, he also wrote he was glad to find out I didn't support mental health before we had kids, which really surprised me because I suggested couples counselling together, but he told me he didn't need it because he did nothing wrong. He also wrote that I refused to have sex or sleep together after he opened up about his anxiety, when he was the one who opted to sleep away from me on the couch after he was accused me of not supporting him like his boss. He also said he was talking to someone he knew who was a union shop steward for advice, and he said there'd be more in the future too. A lot of friends and relatives called me and my parents in the aftermath of his post, mostly those who saw the Facebook one I was tagged in, and my parents and I have been telling them our side. I also received DMs from people telling me off for not supporting his mental health, who I'm guessing are his friends, and some of them were really vulgar too. That only happened on Instagram, and I blocked a lot of them since because I didn't know them. But it's been stressful after he tagged me in his post, and I'm honestly tired of repeating myself to everyone. However, I don't believe in engaging him or drama on social media, so I've continued to explain to everyone who's reached out with the help of my parents. The other thing that sucks is how he called my job after I moved out and told him that I said a lot of ableist things about him and his mental health conditions, which wasn't true. And while I don't think it'll amount to anything, I had to speak to HR about it, which surprised me. Dad doesn't think anything will come from it either, but he's been livid, and I am honestly too. Dad has also suggested a lawyer after how he called my job, and it's something we're investigating for maybe defamation. I don't know if that's the proper term, but maybe something in the ballpark of what he's doing. I just hope he stops, but he doesn't seem to be from his post and calling my job, and he said that there'd be more to come too. I just hope he stops with me at the least, because I could care less if he wants to sue on his own, but we'll see what Dad and I come up with on a lawyer. Gee, so that's it for that story, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. I honestly think the boyfriend is the ex-fiancé, that is an absolute piece of work. Needs a reality check, I think. Anyway, on to the next one. This next story is from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was posted by user followingfit3032, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for selling the house my brother and his family live in? Short and simple, I think. A few years ago, my brother needed help. I let him move into one of my rental properties, and we did it all legally, lease agreement and everything. Because I was renting to him at a break-even point, we agreed that he was responsible for all the maintenance of the house and yard. Well, he has 4 kids, and the hot water tank isn't enough for his family and he wants a new one. I told him to go ahead. He then proceeded to take the cost of the hot water tank and installation out of that month's rent. I reminded him of our agreement. He said he wasn't making improvements to my property for free. I said that the old hot water tank was fine, and he made the decision to replace it. Big argument, and I didn't want to fight, so I said that he was not allowed to make any further changes to the house without my explicit agreement. So he stopped doing maintenance, as a protest. The house itself is not pretty, but it's solid. It is old, and the wiring in it was not meant for all the modern electrics we have. He wanted to add a new breaker box and run more outlets. I said no thanks. I cannot afford that since I'm not making any money on the house. He started getting by about it, and the rent started getting paid late. I tried talking to him, but he said that he had to buy some stuff for the house and he was low on cash. So I sold the house. While the house itself isn't great, it's in an older part of the city and the property itself is 1/4 of an acre. Every time a house sells in the neighbourhood, it is snapped up by developers and turned into multi-family units, or one guy built a McMansion on his land. I know a lot of the developers and I didn't even need to list the house to have it sold in less than a week. My brother found out when he was served with an eviction notice. He called me to ask WTF, so I told him that the house was causing me headaches and I had an opportunity to make some money and I took it. He said I should have offered him a chance to buy it. I said that he was having trouble making rent. How is he going to qualify for a mortgage? He said I'm a jerk and that he has the money. He was waiting for me to make an offer. I asked him if he had the money, why he was late on his rent. He started bad-mouthing me to all our family. A few of them took his side and tried to say I was being a jerk, so I offered them a chance to clear his debt to me if they wanted to share their opinion. None of them took me up on the offer. My parents are on my side and they said I shouldn't have rented to him in the first place. I feel bad for my sister-in-law and the kids, but I'm not going to spend the rest of my life subsidising his. Wife threatening divorce and filing for custody if I don't change careers. I work as a marine engineer on rigs and ships for a large part of the year. This leads to me spending a lot of time from home. The time I'm away from my family isn't very easy on me either, but I have always lived for my job. I had the luck of being able to completely apply myself to my passion because of supporting parents and an understanding partner, up until recently. My career choices have always been consensual between husband and wife. I met my wife during college, and now she is a stay-at-home mum to my 2 kids. Whenever I get internet connection, I try to call or FaceTime as much as possible. Same thing goes for my wife. Now that the kids have gotten a bit older, they seem to be having a harder time with me leaving from home for such a long time. In the last few months, I've been able to keep them happy because of devoting my vacation time entirely to my family. We go on trips all the time. I take the kids to school and camping and take my wife out on dates. All was good and well. That is, until last year, when I got a lucrative contract which entails me working on a ship for 3-month stretches, only being able to briefly return home by plane when shoreside at certain ports. I guess even back then, she was very hesitant in her approval of the situation. I was just so excited at this prospect that I didn't take a long, hard look at her interests. She didn't protest too much, and I ended up persuading her with financial arguments. Fast forward to last week. I return home after an assignment, eager to jump into vacation with my family. Instead of a heartwarming welcome, I get sat down by my wife in the kitchen. She took my kids to her parents' house, so they weren't around. She starts telling me that she's had a long time to think about this, literally seeing as I'm away from home so often, and for so long, in her eyes at least. Tells me I never listen to her concerns, and she proceeds to issue me an ultimatum. Either I seriously think about changing careers, or she moves back to her parents' house with my kids, and she files for divorce and custody. My eyes almost popped out of my head. From our last few calls, such a statement actually didn't come entirely unexpected, but this kind of threat is totally unlike her. I suspected she would propose me therapy or something. However, the way in which she juxtaposed these decisions almost seemed as if I had to choose between my job and my family right then and there. This really rubbed me the wrong way. I tried to keep calm and I told her that I was very sorry for the hardships she has to go through these last months, when I was away from home, that we would try and figure it out together, but that I couldn't give her an immediate answer because there were many factors I had to take into account. Flexible job offers within my field, contractual employment that leaves me with current commitments, our location, we don't live anywhere near a port, financially. I tried to explain this as rationally as possible, referring to the fact that I wouldn't be able to radically change much on a short-term basis. Even if I could, I would still have to take it up with my employer and give notice, etc. She then called me out on always putting her second, being egotistical, she having to give up her job for me. Even in this occasion, when she makes it clear that there is a fair chance of losing her. Seeing as I was frickin' tired from my trip home, getting a bit ticked at her constant inconsiderate behaviour and comments, and taking into account that I was really expecting a different kind of welcome, I got up, slammed the door, juvenile I know, to the bedroom, and got into bed. I laid there for about an hour, not getting any sleep, thinking everything over and regretting my behaviour. I got up and looked around for her. Her car was gone from the driveway. No notes, nothing. I checked my phone, which also did not show any messages. I texted her, asking where she was, and did not receive an answer until the morning after. I didn't frickin' sleep at all that night. She also ended up staying with her parents for the night. I was invited over for dinner at their house that very same day, where I finally got to see my kids, who were luckily unaware of the whole ordeal. During dinner, things were pretty normal, until she started sneaking in snide comments about my absence, not being around during a few key moments in my eldest daughter's school life, my father-in-law having to be there in my stead during some school event. Crap got pretty heated. I barely frickin' recognize this woman at times now. It's like she did a 180-degree turn during my last assignment. My in-laws ended up excusing themselves and taking my kids with them to the back because of the tension. She still wouldn't budge when I just cut to the chase and opened the box of Pandora. I proposed getting more help around the house if she needed that, a nanny or something, but she would have none of it. The only thing that could appease her is hearing out of my mouth that I would quit my current position or that I would get into therapy with her. So I ended up agreeing with the latter because I cannot simply propose the former. Things progressed strained but okay from there on out. I returned home with them and spent the last few days doing activities with my kids. The day before yesterday, she reprimands me about looking into any other job applications yet. I told her I read up on some other engineering positions that lend themselves well to my background, such as maintenance or stationary engineering in the city, but pointed out that it would take time because of license requirements, as well as the things I already stated above. Once again, I told her that I'm not sure yet about the direction this is taking, and that I hope therapy brings us some insights. I booked an appointment for next week, but I'm not expecting much from it, to be fair. In conclusion, I'm left with a woman who clearly harbours a lot of resentment towards me. I feel emasculated because of this behaviour. Especially the threat of divorce on that first day just seems to blow things so much out of proportion. I don't get why she immediately went there. Why is there no compromise possible? I work my butt off every day I'm out at sea. There is no lounging about. It is hard work with a constant need for readiness and attentiveness. Nevertheless, I absolutely love what I do, and I would have a hard time letting it go. But neither do I want to lose my children, which I'm sure I would, with the exception of visitation rights, I guess. I'm at a loss here, to be honest. I haven't dared talk to my parents about this yet, and my kids are blissfully unaware as well so far. With which attitude do I go into couples counselling? Is it right having to give up my entire career just to appease a wife who cannot deal with family life by herself for a given time, while I try to do as much as I can to compensate for this? Maybe I should have posted this to the Am I the A-hole Reddit. Am I the jerk for seriously doubting my marriage here when getting treated this way, and possibly hurting my kids in the process? Oh gee, this is the tricky one, guys. Sounds like she's just kind of lonely, and he's obviously very career-orientated. She probably knew that going into the relationship, but eventually time does take its toll. Anyway, let's look at some comments. Female opinion here. She feels that she is raising the kids alone, and she is tired of asking for more of your time and being brushed off. There is a tipping point at which she will stop wanting and needing you, and no longer miss you when you're gone. And once she no longer misses you, she starts wondering if maybe she'd be better off without you, or at least no worse off, and free to pursue other relationships. Sounds like your wife is at that tipping point, and trying to find a way back to you. If you don't find a way to be present daily in her and the kids' lives, she's going to find someone who will. It's not all about the money for her. She wants someone to share her life with, and you're not around. What's the use of working hard to provide for a family if you lose the family along the way? It sounds like she's basically a single mum already. My husband is more than a paycheck. He's my steady oak in a storm. The umbrella our family is built around. I feel safer when he's home. I barely sleep when he's away. You say you call when you can? God, she must be so lonely. She married you because she loves you. Now you're asking why she isn't satisfied with having money instead of your presence? There are so many little things I share with my husband daily that your wife has to enjoy as special treats on your vacations. You say she didn't really protest and you ended up persuading her with financial arguments. Have you thought perhaps you should have listened to her more at the time than just agree to being away for your family for 3-month stretches with limited time in between to actually be with them? I get you devote your vacation, but how long exactly is that vacation? Realistically, how much time a year do you actually spend at home with your family, being there for your kids as a father and your wife as a partner? 3-month stretches is incredibly hard, and it sounds like this is more than what your wife expected. I realise military spouses deal with similar struggles, but it takes a certain dynamic to work, and it doesn't always pan out. Not to sound callous or cold, but how much would losing custody really mean for you in this instance, all things considered? I mean, you're consistently away from home for work, and your new assignment has you away for 3-month stretches, with limited time back home in between. No offence, but it's not like being forced into visitation periods would be all that different than your given situation. I don't say this wishing for it to come to that, but more so to put it in perspective, that it sounds like you're absent for long stretches, with very little time spent in between with your family. Edit. Opie clarified it's 3 months on, 45 days off. While it does mean Opie is home for a solid stretch, it does mean he's away for a majority of the year. That can be difficult for a family staying behind, and it doesn't work for all people. Not everyone is suited for that, and clearly Opie's wife is not. Alrighty, let's jump to the update. These last 2 weeks have gone by extremely fast. I'm writing this as a show of appreciation for this sub. Also, a couple of you asked for an update. It's been one huge life upheaval so far. A quick overview. My wife and I started seeing a therapist, had 3 long sessions already, who was a true miracle worker. She's been pretty neutral, which I initially found odd concerning the response I got from a few mutual friends of ours on Reddit. She does allow her a lot of room to lay out her troubles and concerns. She helps translate these in a way that has offered me a fresh perspective on this troubled relationship. It really comes down to creating a level playing field, where my wife has an opportunity to be heard. Communication's gone haywire. Our therapist also signalled that I sometimes seem a bit overbearing. My wife has never put it this succinctly, but she could certainly agree with that statement. She reached a boiling point and could no longer play along with my fantasies, while she had to take the brunt of child rearing. That sounds more than fair. I now wish, A, she would have told me much sooner and clearer, and B, I wasn't so emotionally detached that it disallowed me coming to this fairly simple conclusion myself. I also ended up listening to Cats in the Cradle by Harry Chapin. While I had heard the song before, I never dwelled on its true meaning. It hit home. It really reminded me of my relationship with my own father. Hopefully I'll be the one to break the vicious cycle. She told me that she still loves me, and that she would like me to remain part of my family life with the kids. The deployments remained the deal breaker, and she made it clear that if I left on another 3-month assignment 2 weeks from now, I would have lost my final chance. I ended up conceding to her on that point. Mutual compromise is indeed something that requires both parties to give something up, and I hadn't really done much of that lately. She nevertheless agreed to me getting a job shoreside at a local port, even if it entails us moving. I started negotiations with my employer and ended up offering them something of an ultimatum myself. This did not go over well. I won't go into details because of the character count of this sub, but I'm currently somewhat out of a job and probably have a lawsuit coming my way. The terms weren't as lenient as I'd expected. Goodbye oil industry. Hello dredging. I've set my sights on a career in GA and hopefully get to be part of the Savannah Harbour expansion project. It seems like things are going in the right direction for now. Maybe not financially, but at least emotionally. There is hope for my marriage and my capacity as a father. Finally, I'd like to thank this sub for showing me some tough love and helping me find the right attitude to go into therapy with. So there you have it, guys. That's the end of that one. Let me know what you think in the comments. Would you have done the same if you were in Opie's position? I think ultimately, yeah, he's done the right thing here. He was probably being a bit selfish about his career, but now he's kind of opened himself up to compromise, which is a great thing in a relationship. Anyway, let me know what you guys reckon in the comments, and we'll move on to the next story. Okay, so our next story was posted on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was posted by user Forrester7, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for not reimbursing my nanny for books she bought for my daughter? My daughter, Ruby, is 12. Recently she has gotten into the original Star Trek show, as well as The Next Generation. Ruby is also a big reader, and has started to collect a few of the old Star Trek books that she finds in used bookstores and thrift stores. These books usually cost anywhere from 50 cents to a couple of dollars. My nanny, Tessa, female 22, hangs out with Ruby most days after she gets out of school. Tessa has been our nanny for over a year now, and she and Ruby get along great. Tessa is big into thrifting, and will often keep an eye out for the books Ruby wants. This is not typically a problem, and Ruby always pays Tessa back for the books using her allowance. The problem occurred when Tessa went on a family vacation out west. Apparently she went thrifting during this trip and found some books for Ruby. She texted Ruby asking her if she wanted the books, and Ruby said yes. Well, Tessa returned yesterday with a stack of about 35 books and told Ruby they cost $50. Ruby doesn't have this much money and told Tessa. Tessa then asked me if I would cover the cost. I said no, as Tessa had never asked me about buying Ruby the books, nor was I aware of the conversation between the two of them. Tessa got upset, and I asked Ruby to show me the text, which made no mention of price or even the amount of books she was buying. Tessa only said that she found some books for Ruby. Ruby is on the autism spectrum and does not read between the lines. You have to be very literal with her. Previously, Tessa has never bought Ruby more than 1 or 2 books at a time, so I told her that she should have clarified with Ruby regarding the amount or double-checked with me before purchasing, and that I would not be paying the $50. Tessa said she could not return the books because they came from a thrift store. I stood firm in my decision and reiterated that she should have asked me first. Tessa left, and Ruby is very upset. I know Tessa is a student and does not have a ton of money, so am I the jerk for not paying Tessa for the books? Edit. Because some people are asking, I'm a single parent to Ruby, and while $50 will not make or break the bank, it's definitely an unexpected expense. I provide Tessa with an extra amount of money each month to spend on whatever she wants to do with Ruby, movies, the mall, etc. If she wanted to spend this fund on books for Ruby, that would have been totally fine, but she had already used it up. Edit 2. I definitely didn't expect this post to blow up overnight, so I'm going to add a bit more context. For those of you who are asking how I can afford a nanny for Ruby and still have $50 be a large unexpected expense, I do not pay for Tessa's services. Because Ruby is on the spectrum, she is entitled to benefits from our state, including care. The agency I work with pays Tessa. I'm not involved in that process at all. Oh, gee, this is a tricky one. To be honest, I don't think anyone's really at fault here. It's just kind of a lack of communication. I think everyone can kind of be better with talking to each other about these sorts of things. Anyway, let's take a look at what the comments think. Sometimes it's better to salvage an important relationship than to be right. Pay for the books. Let Tessa know that you can't do so in the future though, without talking about it. Tell her how much you appreciate her thoughtfulness, now and always. You're the a-hole. Jesus, you're stingy. You're blessed with a very thoughtful nanny who thinks of your child, even when she's not at work. There was a misunderstanding about the cost. All you had to do to behave decently was pay her, but ask her to please confirm amounts with Ruby in the future, and that if it happens again you won't be able to pay for it. You're the a-hole. The nanny that you and your daughter likes while on her vacation thought of your daughter and her interest in specific books, and she carried them home. There is no way I'm carrying home 35 books for someone, and if she took an airplane, an even bigger effort. Yes, she should have reached out to you to confirm. She made a mistake. You can't look past that mistake and the kindness she is showing your daughter. 35 books is a lot. She was probably excited to add to your daughter's collection. Your decision may have just cost you a nanny. You're the a-hole. Former nanny, loved my kids to death, and often went out of pocket for them. The parents always tried to reimburse, but I politely declined. However, you might lose a nanny who actually gives an F about your kid, and that's rare. Over $50. Not a smart move. Edit. Your nanny thought she was doing something great for your kid. It's fine to set a boundary after a misunderstanding, but you're really not going to reimburse a young adult who is just trying to encourage and care for your kid? Seriously, think about it. Okay, all the comments seem to say that OP is the a-hole. To be honest, yeah, I can see their side of it, and it's perfectly justifiable. However, this nanny kind of knows that the kid is paying for the books in the first place, and $50, that's a lot of money for a kid, no matter who it is. The nanny should have realised that as well. Anyway, on to an update. Update. I appreciate everyone's valuable insights into the situation. I've seen a few comments hinting to me about the fact that I don't support my daughter's reading habit. Please know, this is definitely not the case. We are both big readers and frequent patrons of our local library. I'm always supportive of Ruby getting new books. I talked to Tessa and told her that I appreciate her for thinking of Ruby, apologised for the misunderstanding, and have paid her for the books. We had a chat about expectations in the future, and I don't think this will happen again. I have also talked to Ruby, and we agreed that I would hold on to the books, and she would pay me for them as she wishes. It is important to me that Ruby learns how to handle her finances appropriately, and we have decided that she will get 2 new books every week. She reads very quickly. After reading through your perspectives on the matter, I agree that it is better in the long run to lose the money and salvage the relationship between the 3 of us, and had not considered all the implications of doing otherwise. Lesson learned. Alright, well there you go folks, a good ending to that one overall. It seems like both parties kind of learned their lesson in the end. Tessa for not specifying the amount that she was paying for the books, and not communicating better with the parent and the kid. And also the parent for being more understanding of the situation and I guess using it to prove a point or set a boundary rather than, making a big deal out of it. My sister hasn't eaten since Dad hit her on Sunday for making us late to church. My dad and a few other men were installed as church trustees on Sunday and stood with the pastor on stage, and they had to do it for both services. It was announced that he was voted in during a church event where they voted for the members, and we were all there to support him. He also went shopping for what we wore on Sunday too, and wanted all of us to look really nice. Dad always yells whenever we're running late, and most of the time he's yelling at my sister, Carol, because she takes too long to get dressed, and in the past he's thrown or hit things too. He kicked a chair in the dining room pretty loud when we were younger, and he also threw something that put a hole in the wall too. I used to get spanked for taking too long, but that was a long time ago. With Dad being installed on Sunday, he wanted us there really early, but when my sister was taking a long time like she normally does, he began yelling at her and cursing too, and I tried to help her get dressed in the past after finishing my stuff early, but he'll yell at me and says she has to do it herself. I've snuck into her room to help her when Dad doesn't want me to, because Mum won't help her and is too afraid to say anything to Dad. He also yells at her and curses at her too. However, this Sunday, he had me and my mum wait in the car when we were done, and he did this before too. Carol wasn't done though, and when Dad came out, she wasn't with him, and when he came in the car, he said she wasn't going. When I asked why, he said she wasn't listening, and a bunch of other things that I don't want to write, but basically calling her stupid and stuff like that, along with how we were already late. He's left her home before when she was sick, or me in the past if we're running really late, so I didn't think too much of it. However, when we got back, my sister was still crying in her room, and she had a bruise on her cheek as well. When I asked her what had happened, she said that Dad hit her, and she also hasn't eaten since, as it's now Tuesday, and has refused to eat with us at all. When I told Mum what happened and she saw for herself, she said that she would talk to Dad, but that was on Sunday, and she doesn't want to talk about it anymore. I don't know if she talked to Dad, but when I tried to talk to him, he told me to mind my business and that I used to be just as bad at her age. But when I told him that he wasn't right, he just yelled at me, and Mum saw and wouldn't do anything. And she also hasn't gone to school the past few days either, because Mum told them that she wasn't feeling well. How can I help her when they refuse to do anything, and just yell at me for bringing it up? Unless she's eating when I'm around. She hasn't eaten much of anything since Sunday morning. I want to tell someone, but if I do, I'm afraid that they won't be able to do anything to help. So I want to ask how I should in case I try to do that. I just need help because they won't help me at all. Edit. I'm leaning towards telling a teacher tomorrow. I was just afraid of nothing happening and getting further punished because Mum keeps defending him and would say I'm lying. I'm also going to take a photo of the bruise, since they aren't allowing my sister to leave the home or go to school until the bruise heals. I am also going to try to sneak her food, because Dad said that she is not allowed to eat if she refuses to eat with the family, which is why sneaking her food is hard. But I'll try after they go to sleep, I'm thinking, although I know that she needs it at earlier hours too. Oh geez, this doesn't sound like a very good family dynamic. Anyway, let's look at some comments. Take multiple photos and tell the school guidance counsellor or a teacher or principal tomorrow morning first thing. You can also report your parents to CPS if you're in the US. This is abuse. Get your sister help and make it clear to them that your mother is afraid of your father as well. Your mother needs help too. Other people have given you good advice, but in case you have any hesitation about involving both your parents in the report, I just want to register my horror at your mum's collusion in hiding your sister. I promise you they are not keeping her home for her own benefit. OP, first thing to say is that you are an incredibly strong and insightful young lady. I would be so proud if you were my daughter. I'm a social worker in the UK. I'm not sure where you are, so I don't know the full process, but I imagine it's similar most places. Our goal is always to work with the families and keep them together. Sometimes that isn't the best thing though, and I want to reiterate what others have said about how important it is that you and your sister are open and honest so they can keep you safe. That is the priority. It will be hard and you will have a lot of conflicting feelings, but you are absolutely doing the best thing you can by reaching out to us. Taking advice, like taking the picture as evidence, is important, and by talking to a trusted teacher. Your mum sounds like she's scared. Very often we see the adult victim in these situations appearing to do nothing because they are worried that whatever they do will make the situation worse. You have every right to be angry at your mum, and the amount of empathy you have shown is amazing. If you want an outside view from a child protection specialist, then I'll answer anything I can. Same goes to anyone else. Yeah, I agree with these comments. Honestly, there needs to be an outside source that kind of tells the parents that what they're doing is wrong and kind of calls them out on it a bit, you know? Anyway, let's jump to the update. Updating as of January 23, 2023, due to many people asking in my DMs. I wanted to come back to this as something else happened recently that made me upset, but also because a lot of people were asking if we were okay. Things just got really crazy, which was why I didn't check Reddit for a bit. But I got a lot of messages asking if we were okay when I came back to vent about something else. I tried to make a new post, but relationship advice doesn't seem to allow updates under 18 anymore, and I'll be turning 18 in a few months. The other subreddits I posted to were also locked, so that left me with here to make an update. I mentioned that my dad didn't allow my sister to go to school until the bruise healed, and a lot of people told me to tell a teacher. I did tell a teacher, but I don't think anything major happened. My sister didn't go back to school until it healed, and I got punished for telling her. I'm guessing someone from the school called my parents, and that led to a big talk with my parents about how someone in the school called or spoke to them. My parents used to spank me in the past, but they didn't hit me when we talked. They took away privileges including my phone, laptop, not allowing me to see friends, and I was 15 when we talked. They also yelled at me, and I didn't get to see some friends for months because my parents said I made up lies about them. I was also taken out of sports at a place I used to play at after school, and me telling the teacher just became a big thing. My sister said she didn't say anything about being hit upon returning to school because it would have caused more trouble, and our parents told her not to. I didn't know that they told her that until too late, but things have been better with her and my parents since. But for me, things have been worse. I mentioned that I was going to try to talk to my aunt, and I told her what happened after my parents told her to deny it. She said that the school should have called CPS, and that she would because it wasn't the first time Dad hit us. He hit me in the past for not wanting to go to church, and Mum slapped me across the face for church too. I told Auntie about how telling the school got me in trouble, and she said she didn't want me to get hit for telling her, so she said she'd call CPS herself without talking to my parents beforehand. She also said that the teacher could have called CPS already, but that another call would add to the record for the future, and she told me to tell her if he hit us again. Dad has not hit me since, maybe because he's afraid of people finding out now, but he began treating me differently since telling the school and CPS because he said that it could have gotten him cancelled if people outside the church learned about it. Some people suggested telling people in the church about how he hit us, but I don't think that would work because they're really popular. And Dad was re-elected as trustee since my first post, which really bothers me for how people see him. They're still mad at me for telling others, and I haven't been allowed to work as part of punishment. I hope that they can change once I'm 18, but they said that college is off the table as a result. I honestly don't want their help, because I'll just be tied to them for 4 more years, and my sister doesn't talk to me much either. She said she didn't want me to tell anyone back then, and she's 12 now. I never thought telling my teacher would result in everything that happened, such major punishments, but I'd do it again honestly. Mum said I could have been disowned for trying to get them in trouble too. I'm just trying to see how I can move out with no work experience thanks to their punishment, but also hoping I can repair things with my sister before I move out, because we're no longer close, and I think it's because she's afraid to go against them. I just feel like I'm running out of time to connect with her before I turn 18, and she's been distant for over 2 years. Oh man, yeah, sounds like a really tough situation for OP here. On one hand, she doesn't really want her parents to keep getting away with the abuse, and it is abuse, let's be frank about that. But on the other hand, she wants to maintain relationships with her family, and that's fair enough too. But yeah, it's very clear that the dad has got major problems. I think the sooner OP gets out of that house, the better. Either way, let me know what you guys reckon in the comments, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so our next story was posted on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for trying to be sympathetic to my daughter? My, female 60, younger daughter, Louise, female 26, got engaged earlier in the year. Her fiancé is a wonderful man, and I'm thrilled for her. My older daughter, Sarah, female 30, has been single for quite some time. Naturally, we always expected that my Sarah would get married first, and I feel terrible for her that she's watching her sister live out her dream wedding without one of her own in sight. I tried to convince Louise to put off her wedding until after her sister was married, but both my girls thought that was ridiculous, so I didn't push. Louise's dress appointment is coming up in a few weeks, and both Sarah and myself were invited. I called Sarah the other day to check on her and see if she would rather go on a fun mother-daughter day with me if it was too painful. Sarah said that she was perfectly fine and that we should be there to support Louise, which is so kind of her, but I feel as though she's trying to put on a brave face, so I suggested that while we were there, she try on a few dresses so it could feel like her moment too. Sarah said that it was a terrible idea and that the focus should be entirely on Louise, and that she genuinely doesn't care that Louise is getting married first. She even said that she enjoys being single and doesn't know if she ever has plans to marry, which breaks my heart because I've been dreaming about my oldest daughter's wedding my whole life. Sarah has apparently told Louise about my suggestion, and Louise now wants to uninvite me from the appointment. I feel like Louise is being insensitive to her sister, and my brother and sister-in-law agree, but Sarah is on her side. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. I'm not trying to imply that a woman can't be happy on her own. I simply believe that given Sarah's personality, she would really want a wedding for herself. She enjoys grandeur while Elle enjoys simple pleasures. In my dreams of my daughter's wedding, I always envisioned a classic grand wedding, while Louise's wedding is shaping up to be more of a formal get-together. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It has Louise written all over it. Of course I support unmarried women. I also love both daughters equally, but I think since Louise is receiving so much attention, love and support at this time, she can spare some of my attention for Sarah. Nah, this is stupid. Sarah will get her own time, surely. This is Louise's time. Let her have the spotlight for a bit. What's the harm in that? Anyway, let's look at the comments. You're the a-hole. Why do you care when literally no one else cares? It's not your wedding. Mind your business and stop trying to create issues. You're the a-hole, OP. You've created this whole narrative for your oldest based on your own feelings and perceptions, and now you're trying to shoehorn her into it. Back up, shut up, and stop being a crap stirrer. You're the a-hole. You're projecting your feelings at Sarah. Nothing you've written suggests Sarah is unhappy or putting on a brave face. You just can't seem to understand that Sarah isn't putting the same value on her hypothetical marriage that you are. Literally, this is all about what you want, and you're actively ignoring what both Louise and Sarah want. I was Sarah at one point. My younger sister got married before me, and my parents keep acting like I must actually want to get married, and therefore I'm miserable. I don't talk to them anymore. Take a clue. Yeah, I agree with these comments, and it sounds like most of the other comments agree as well. Opie's the a-hole. Anyway, let's jump to the update. Thank you all for the advice. An extra special thank you for all those of you calling me a horrible person and mother. Super helpful, guys. Anyway, I just got off the phone with Louise. I explained that I got caught up in feeling sorry for Sarah, but that one of your comments really got to me. Would Sarah love a big huge party all about her? Yes, absolutely. Would she love being married? Probably not, and that's okay with me. My daughter's happiness comes first. I saw Louise's marriage as an opportunity for a huge celebration rather than a celebration of her and the love of her life, and I perceived her simpler plans as a missed opportunity that Sarah would have taken. Mum fail for sure. I will stand by what I said. I think Sarah is upset that she's missing out on all that goes into having a wedding. So instead of trying to convince Louise to share her wedding spotlight, Louise came up with the idea that we all go out for Sarah's upcoming birthday this summer. Venue, DJ, catering, new dress, the whole 9 yards. Louise and her fiancé stayed way under budget for their wedding, so my husband and I should have enough for the party. That way, Sarah can still experience being in the spotlight while not imposing on her sister's wedding. Sarah loved the idea but made it clear to me that her birthday should take the backseat to Louise's wedding and should not be more impressive. But just given Sarah's tastes versus Louise's, I don't think that'll be the case. Regardless, Louise's wedding will be first, so Sarah's party won't take away any of the attention. And for all of you saying that my daughters are better women than I am, I know you're right and I couldn't be prouder of them. My brother and sister-in-law still think Louise is being selfish, and my sister-in-law even said that she would rather be seeing Sarah getting married, so my husband and I will be talking to the girls about whether they'll be welcome at the wedding at all. I was wrong, I know that now, but thankfully Louise has been gracious enough to invite me to the fitting again, and I promise I will keep the focus completely on her. God, I feel like this lady completely missed the point again. What's all this crap about focus and why should the focuses be evened out between the two sisters? Louise is getting married, she has the focus, right? And that's a normal thing to do. You don't have to compensate for it by throwing a big party and making someone else feel better about themselves. That's just stupid, and your daughters aren't going to learn anything, and Opie's definitely not going to learn anything. She just sounds completely out of touch with reality. Anyway, that's just me. Let me know what you guys reckon in the comments, and we'll go to the next one. Okay, our next story was from the same subreddit. It's written by user Clueless Dad Perhaps, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter it's just a dress and she's being dramatic? I'm a single dad to 3 daughters. This revolves around my middle, Juliet, 17, female. A few weeks ago, I took her shopping for her prom dress. She picked one that she absolutely loved and she truly looks like a princess. Then, last week, she was very upset because she saw on Instagram that a classmate, not a friend but someone in her grade, had bought the same dress, but in a different colour. She tried asking the other girl to change, and the girl, rightfully, told her no. I was sympathetic and let her vent, also adding that it was a different colour, so at the very least it wasn't too similar. The issue is, Juliet has been trash-talking the girl for the past week. This is very out of character for her. She's never been a gossip, but I've heard her venting to her friends about it. I let it go because what does venting really matter? Then I got a call from Juliet's history teacher, saying that she overheard Juliet talking poorly about this girl repeatedly. While the girl is not in the class, and there's no evidence of bullying, she is worried it'll get there. I sat Juliet down and said while I understand completely that this is frustrating, and I may not get all that comes with dresses and such, this isn't fair to the other girl. From what it seems, she didn't purposefully do this to hurt her. I pointed out the different colours, also offered to take her to return the dress, and she could get another if having a unique dress was that important. Juliet said that she shouldn't have to get a new dress. She kept trash-talking this girl. I finally told her, "It's a dress. Your feelings are valid, but you need to stop being so dramatic and let it go." This upset her, and she left the room in tears. I tried talking to her about it, but she stayed in her room. My eldest, 22 female, told me I technically wasn't wrong, but I shouldn't have said it. I really try not to be a bumbling dad who doesn't know what he's talking about. I learned all stuff related to raising girls, have always made it clear they can come to me for anything, etc. If I need to outsource a problem or they want a woman to talk to, they have their godmother, my late wife's best friend. Was I the butt here? This guy sounds like a good dad. I'm going to go with no, definitely not the a-hole. But let's look at the comments. Not the a-hole. She is bullying this girl over a dress. This is beyond standard teenager jerkery. Not the a-hole. She's 17, not 7. You shouldn't have to baby her when she's acting like a jerk. Not the a-hole. Bullying another student over a prom dress is an a-hole move. They aren't even the same colour. Yeah, and most of the other comments tend to agree with me and all these comments here. Not the a-hole. Very resounding. Alright, let's go to the update. I want to thank everyone for your feedback and advice. Some of you suggested there is much more going on here, and I agreed. I sat down with Juliet again and said I stand by my sentiment, but I also think there has to be more going on. As I said, it's just a dress, and this isn't like her at all. Some of you suggested perhaps she had prior history with this girl. She said no, they don't even really talk. They only follow each other on social media because everyone follows everyone. I pushed more and asked why a dress was so important. She eventually admitted it wasn't, then went on to say that she felt weird about prom this whole entire time, and her senior year overall. When I asked why, she started crying and said she missed her mum, she wished she was here, etc. My wife passed when Juliet was 5, so she never truly had her for any of those big milestones that a girl would have with a mother. Watching her friends go through all these things with their mum reminded her that she doesn't have one. I gave her a big hug and held her while she cried. I cried a little myself. I knew that Juliet struggled with her mum's death, but had no clue it was still such an issue. Once she calmed down, Juliet insisted that she hadn't ever said anything to the girl, but agreed to apologise for even asking her to change the dress. She also promised to stop talking junk. I told her next time to just talk to me about it. I miss her mum too. When my eldest was going through all these milestones her senior year, I definitely felt that someone was missing and that my wife should be there. So, crisis is over. I know some said to ban her from going to prom, and if she had continued her behaviour I would have. But considering she's going to apologise and is letting it go, I feel that's an overreaction. G'day there guys, and welcome to some more stories from Reddit. My name is Connor and thanks for joining me today. As always, if you're new and you enjoy these videos, be sure to keep hitting that like and subscribe button, and also the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Alrighty, let's get right into it. Okay, so our first story was posted on Relationship Advice subreddit. It was posted by a deleted account, and it's titled, "My cousin told me that she was having sex with my boyfriend, who died last year, while we were together." Almost 1 year ago, I lost the man I considered the love of my life. We were together since I was 19. He died in an accident, and this was so unexpected. It was tragic, and I went into depression. He was the man I wanted to call my husband, and have a family with. There were so many things we wanted to experience together. I just couldn't deal with it, and the pain was very strong. Thankfully, I had a few people who were there for me. I also went to therapy, and it really helped me. It still hurts a lot, but I'm doing my best to get better. The thing is that I have this cousin who I see from time to time, but don't really get along with. She only contacted me when she needs me to help her. She used to have, and still has, a lot of issues and trouble, so I used to feel a bit bad about her and try to help her a bit. 2 days ago, she called me because she wanted to know if I could take care of her kids. She's a single mother of 2, for a few hours. I told her that I couldn't because I had to study for some exam. She started to get mad, go on a rant, and told me that I was being a bee, that I was lying, things as such. I told her I was done with her and her insults. I was about to hang up, but that's when she told me, "Just so you know, I was effing with," my late boyfriend's name, for 3 months, and that until the day he died. I just couldn't believe it. I was in disbelief, completely shocked, but didn't know if it was true or not. I told her to shut up, that it was all lies, that she needed to take her medication, and hung up on her. I started to cry. I was so shocked. I wasn't ready for it. I know she has some bipolar issues, but I also know for sure she had sex with plenty married and taken men as well in her past. I'm so confused. I'm just having a hard time believing my boyfriend would have been able to do that. He didn't even like her, and she didn't like him either. I don't think she was his type, and he told me she was bringing too much drama. If it's true, I never saw or noticed anything. I can't believe it, but it puts some doubts in my mind. I'm feeling lost and confused now. Is she lying? Did she invent this because she wanted to be mean and hurt me? I just don't know what to think. Let's look at some comments. Your boyfriend is dead, so it's not like you can ask him. You could ask his friends or go through his phone, but what good will that do you? Let it go. Tell your cousin that her confession says more about how horrible a person she is, whether it's true or not. Grieve your partner and move on. At this point it does not matter what happened, only that she said this to make you angry and it hurt you. Block this person and never look back. OP replies, "I will cut her off for sure. I feel sorry for the issues she has and had to deal with, but she isn't feeling sorry for me. She's bringing a lot of drama as well, and that event was just too much." Sounds like she's lying to me. She was just throwing any insult and anything hurtful that would stick at you. OP replies, "That's what I told myself in the beginning, and then doubt started to appear, because I know it wouldn't be the first time she would have sex with someone in a relationship, and I asked myself, was my boyfriend as perfect as I thought? Even though I trusted him 100%, I have a lot of doubts now. I didn't see any signs, but I know her past, and that could be her type. Maybe I was idealizing him too much, and the fact that he died intensified this feeling. Maybe I need to open my eyes and face reality. I didn't ask for more details, so I can't really tell if she's telling the truth. Alrighty guys, let's jump straight to the update. A few days ago, I posted about my cousin telling, during an argument, that she was having sex for 3 months with my boyfriend while we were together. My boyfriend died almost a year ago. We had such a beautiful relationship, and even though I didn't believe her, she has mental health issues, it still freaked me up and put some doubts in my head. You can see my previous post on my profile for more details. Since I posted, I waited 2 days to see if she would contact me to apologise, but I didn't hear from her. So as many people suggested, I blocked her. I decided that I was completely done with her and I cut her off. I won't be able to forgive her, because what she did was very vile and cruel. She was not worth it anyways. I talked about it to my mother, brothers and my late boyfriend's friends, a few of them, and everyone told me that I shouldn't believe her. His friends told me that they never saw any signs, that they never heard that he was cheating with her or anyone. They also told me that every time he was talking about me, it was in positive. It reassures me, but that just made me sad because it made me miss him even more. Now I'll try to only keep the good memories that I had with him, and I'll try to forget about what she said. I want to honour his memory because he was the man I loved. I know the path is going to be long, and I know that depression probably isn't too far. I have some bad days and better ones. My cousin made things worse, but thankfully I have a great mother and brothers, best friend, and a few friends. However, sometimes I still feel very alone and lost. I hope for better days. And to the people who told me they lost someone in the comments, I feel your pain and I'm sorry. Also, thanks to the ones who showed me support. I appreciate it. Every time I had an issue or a problem, my boyfriend used to tell me, "We'll make it together." But now I'm alone, but I'll fight for you and your memory. Okay guys, so that's the end of that one. A bit melancholic there at the end, but hopeful, I think. And yeah, I think it's best for OP to just ignore what the cousin said. It's most likely a lie based on the evidence, and it was just said out of spite, so not surprising. Anyway, let's jump to our next story. Okay, our next title was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, "I lost my job 2 weeks ago, and I still haven't told my wife. I think she suspects I'm having an affair." First of all, no, I'm not having an affair. I love my wife, 35 female, and I will not do something so vile like that. My wife and I have been married for 8 years now. Together we have a 4-year-old daughter and a newborn son of 10 months old. Recently, the company I used to work for suffered a huge loss, so they had to lay off a lot of the employees. I was shocked. I didn't tell my wife about it. I'm in a lot of stress with no job, and 2 kids in this economy would be difficult. My wife recently joined the workforce after staying at home after the birth. I've always been a primary breadwinner of our family. I made good money. My wife earned less than I did, so I took the role of primary provider. Now that I've lost my job, there will be money trouble for a while. We do have savings, but without a steady income it will be hard. Like I said, I have yet to tell my wife. I don't know how she'll react. Of course she will be sad, and I'm afraid it's going to put a strain in our relationship. I'm afraid she will stop seeing me as a man and resent me because I cannot fully fulfill my role as a husband and father anymore. It has been 2 weeks. Those 2 weeks I just pretended I'd go to work, but then again I just go to the local park and sit there. I either read or search for other jobs. I come home the time I usually come home. My wife did notice I've been depressed lately and we haven't been intimate. She asked me if something is wrong. I said nothing. Last night she asked me if I didn't love her anymore. My heart just dropped. I think she thinks I'm having an affair, but I can't tell her I got fired. What should I do? Oh man, this guy's in a bit of a rough spot, but to be honest, in my opinion, you should just tell her. Like if she loves you, I think she'll understand your situation. It's a bit of an outdated mentality now that you might be, less of a man because of something out of your control. It's silly. Anyway, let's check the comments. First of all, man, very sorry. That's a very crappy situation to be in. But you should have told your wife when you got laid off. Keeping something like this is not going to make it any better. This is something that you just can't continue to prolong. You must tell her. Especially because finances are going to be super tight. She needs to know, so she can be a little more careful with the spending. As far as viewing you as a man, things happen. It wasn't your fault. It's not like you got yourself fired. She most likely would have helped you with your job search, and it could have eliminated some of the stress in the past 2 weeks. Not married, but I've been with my boyfriend for 5 years, and we're planning on getting engaged next year. 2 years ago he was laid off. He called me crying. I just walked him through it, and told him it was going to be okay. Helped him find a new vision. He is now in that career currently. I wish you the best of luck with finding a new job. Having two kids, especially a young one, is very difficult to be unemployed, but you need to speak to your wife immediately. It is going to put a strain on your relationship because you've hidden it for so long, instead of telling her when it happened. You may not be having an affair, but you are doing a good job at shattering any trust she has in you. OP replies, I don't want that. To be honest, the reason why I didn't tell her because I didn't know how to. Also, I've been reading a lot of articles and videos that says once a husband loses a job, the chances of divorce are high. I've always liked being able to be the provider of my house. Now that I lost that role, it has put me in a strange position of not knowing what to do. It was one of the reasons why my wife respects me a lot. I do not want to lose that. Alrighty, let's jump straight to the update. I tried to make an update, but the mods removed it. I'm really thankful for this people in the subreddit for knocking some sense into me. I talked to my wife, and I told her that I got laid off 2 weeks ago. I opened up to her about my own insecurities, and that I feel completely worthless because I promised her that I'll provide for her, and she never has to worry a day in her life. Now that I do not have a job, I felt out of place and a little ashamed that I've let her down. Well, she headbutted me with her plushie and said I'm an idiot and I've hurt her by making her think I was having an affair. I told her that I would never do that to her. I love her so much. I asked for her forgiveness and she says as long as I'm not having an affair, she doesn't care. We talked about it a lot. She reassured me just because I don't have a job at the moment, she doesn't see me as any less of a man. She says I can still provide for my family. We talked about the finances and she told me she would earn for both of us from now on, and told me to not be too hard on myself. I need a break after grinding and sacrificing my hours. She also told a story that when we were first dating, I helped her pay her bills for 3 months, and she promised that she would pay me back. She said that it's her turn to support us. I have decided that I should rest now. I've been so wrapped up because of my job, I hardly made time for my kids. I'm kind of enjoying it. I spend more time with my kids. We do have enough savings to get us by for quite some time. In the meantime, I would look for another job. I guess I let my insecurities get the best of me. Thank you, Reddit. Great, there you go. So that was not so hard for OP. Just open up to your wife, and because she loves him so much, she understands his situation and is willing to make it work for the both of them. Yeah, good ending there. Let me know what you think of that one in the comments, and we'll jump to our next story. Okay, our next one was posted on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was posted by user MissLost1023, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for making my 7-year-old go to Alcoholics Anonymous? I, 31 female, have an amazing son, almost 8, who is incredibly sweet, well-mannered, and inquisitive, although I guess most parents think of their kids that way. I quit drinking about 2 months ago, and have been adamant about doing the AA program correctly. 90 meetings in 90 days, sponsor, daily readings, therapy, etc. I really want to be a good mum and make up for my bad decisions when I was drinking. I never harmed him or put him in danger, but I just wasn't present and am remorseful about my drinking past. The problem is that I'm a single mum who works full-time and I live in a small town. Because it's small, there aren't a lot of options in terms of AA meetings, so the only one I can really attend is the 5:30 based on my schedule and my son's. His father has him part-time, so on those days I can attend meetings by myself, but on my days I have to bring my son. I don't have anyone to leave him with, and babysitting wouldn't work because nobody wants to babysit for just 1 hour. It doesn't financially make sense for them. So, I take my son to meetings. Naturally, he isn't too thrilled when I have to. Before you suggest I could do Zoom meetings, I really don't get anything out of them. I like the in-person connection and atmosphere. My ex, who has never taken my alcoholism seriously and has never actually attended an AA meeting, says I'm the a-hole for exposing our child to that kind of atmosphere and those kinds of people. The truth is, those people are what saved my life. They are so sweet and good with my son, and while sometimes the subject matter can be a little adultish, we mostly talk about how to be better people and live a spiritually sound existence and to help our fellow man. I personally think it's good for my son to be surrounded by people that are trying to better themselves, and also to let him know at an early age the effects of alcoholism as it runs in my family. But maybe I'm the a-hole and way off the mark, and I'm doing more damage than good. I would just like outside opinions that aren't emotionally connected to the situation. Am I the a-hole for taking my 7-year-old to AA meetings with some of the topics that are addressed? Oh gee, this is a tricky one, isn't it, guys? I don't know. Let's head to the comments. I'm not comfortable calling you an a-hole over this because you're between a rock and a hard place, but yes, it's inappropriate subject matter for a child. It might make other members feel like they can't speak their real experiences, meaning they cannot get anything out of the meetings. The topics often cover abuse, death, etc., and that's not appropriate for a child. It will not be fair to other members or your child. Editor ad. I was taken to these meetings as a child by family members. I got to hear firsthand as assaulters and pedophiles described their crimes in details. One woman started drinking because her husband beat her, and she described that in detail too. In the meetings I was in, people often tell their stories of the worst times in their lives. Maybe I went to unusually dark meetings. Maybe things have changed a lot since then, I don't know. I can only go by my experience, and my experience is that these topics are unacceptable for a child and unfair to the other members. OP, you have to find a babysitter or do Zoom classes. Do not take your child. It's not fair to anyone to bring him. I think you're the a-hole, chiefly for two reasons. Your ex is half right. An AA meeting is not the kind of atmosphere a 7-year-old should be regularly subjected to. He's 7, not 10. Though to be clear, your ex is an a-hole for being judgmental about those people. You're doing a good job trying to teach the dangers of alcoholism to your child at an early age, but I think 7 is just a tad too young for such serious and somber topics. There will be a time for this, but I don't think it's now. You may not realise it, but perhaps the presence of a young child may be affecting the others to perhaps not speak as freely as they could have. There are just topics you do not talk about in the presence of a child, and I know that they probably all say they're fine, but in that situation it's fairly possible no one wants to be that person who bees about it. Even if it's just a hypothetical, I think it only adds to the notion that you really should be finding something else to do for your child during those hours. Does your child not have any friends he could stay with? Also, you're the a-hole is merely for the purposes of judging who's in the wrong, so to speak. You're explicitly not a jerk for this, and I offer you the most sincere congratulations for beating this demon and staying strong. Yeah, I think those comments summed it up pretty good. Like, you don't want to put the blame completely on OP there, but at the same time, yeah, the subject matter is a little bit too explicit for a kid. I agree. What do you guys think? Anyway, let's jump to the update. First and most importantly, I'm still sober and feel better than I have in years. I can now be more present and a better mum to my child, and for that I'm incredibly grateful. AA has quite literally saved my life, and if anyone who is reading this struggles with addiction, I just want to say there is a way out. You just have to know you are worth it, and sobriety is worth it. My first post ended up being a mixed bag in terms of judgments about my jerkery. I accept my judgment of being the a-hole, but I did want to clarify a common misconception. Abstaining from alcohol is just a small portion of AA. A much larger portion is dedicated to looking into why we drink, take accountability for our selfish actions, and apologise accordingly, and to rectify our character defects so we can be better people to our friends and families. Because of these aspects, I was hoping exposing my son to the program would teach him something about accountability, patience, and empathy. I ended up just asking my AA home group if it bothered them that I brought my son to the meetings. Not only did everyone look at me like I grew a second head for even asking for permission, every parent in the group talked about their own children growing up in AA and how you do what you have to do to stay sober. Essentially, the consensus was that it's far better for a kid to have been dragged to meetings a few hours a week than to have a mum drunk all the time. I still take my son to AA meetings, but now I allow him to play on my tablet with headphones. I got reamed in the comments for not allowing my kid to do this before. Fair enough. I just have this thing about kids being on technology as a quick fix for boredom, but I need to get over that. My son gets a lot of treats and gifts from my home group members. One dude gives him $10 and 20s every time he sees my son. I know, right? Untapped resource. My son is learning how to play electric guitar, and 2 AA meetings will riff with my son and talk music. Jimi Hendrix is currently my son's hero. All in all, my son likes the attention and says he doesn't mind going to meetings. A surprising update in all of this is that my son's dad has stopped drinking, although he currently refuses to attend AA. My relationship with my ex is much better, and my kiddo seems much happier as a whole. Life for all of us is just better. And while I don't want to turn this into a public endorsement for AA, I just want to say that sobriety is hands down the best thing that's ever happened to my family. There you go, guys, that's the end of that one. A good compromise I think they found there. So the son still goes to the meetings, but he can play on his tablet and with his headphones on, so he's not exposed to those kind of topics as much as he would be before. Yeah, and for a 7-year-old, it can be a bit much, I reckon, in those environments. I think this last comment here makes a pretty good point. I actually think it's really beneficial that a dedicated screen time can be during the AA meetings. When I was a kid, we did family therapy, but most of my memories of it were just playing with blocks. The simple act of having a good time in a therapy setting makes therapy and mental health feel important from a young age. Even if her son is playing on his tablet, he's getting positive experiences in close proximity to mental health support. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Teaching the kid to associate, good, playful memories with kind of tricky environments like a mental health setting can be good to kind of change the stigma around mental health and, going to things like Alcoholics Anonymous meetings or family therapy or anything like that. How do I tell my husband about my son's new girlfriend? I apologise for any issue with the post as I don't really use Reddit, but I couldn't think of anywhere else to ask for advice anonymously. I have 3 sons, 32, 28 and 26. All of my sons are very successful young men and are on their own. My oldest and youngest were always very outgoing and were kind of party animals in high school and college. My middle focused on his grades and future from a young age. He moved out the youngest into his own home. Anyway, my middle had a very bad ex-girlfriend. I would like to say worse, but I read the rules here. Basically, they dated since 17, and she cheated on him several times. My son never left because he loved her, but eventually he realised she was a bad woman and left her. Only took 8 years. Anyway, my oldest got married at 29 and my youngest is engaged. They give my middle son a lot of crap because he is single, but I always say his ex kind of messed up his sense of love and confidence. They don't understand what he went through. My husband agrees. 6 months ago, he started dating this new girl that we just met yesterday. I was happy to hear he found someone. She is very educated and smart, according to him. They have similar personalities and interests. Considering my middle is kind of a nerd, that made me very happy to hear. Anyway, I wanted to meet her immediately. My son said that she's very shy and it would take her time. 6 months later, she told him that she is ready to meet us. So Friday afternoon, my husband decides to grill. Everyone comes over. Then my son and his new girlfriend shows up. This beautiful girl walks in holding his hand and standing behind him. He was right, she is very shy. We all introduce ourselves and we will call her Sadie. Sadie was quiet but said hi to everyone. She honestly associated the most with our dog that night. My sons go out and help their dad cook. My daughter-in-law goes out with my grandbaby, and soon-to-be daughter-in-law and her are best friends and they go out together. I ask if Sadie would like to help me finish the sides and chop some stuff. She says sure. I just ask how they met and typical conversations. Eventually my middle comes in and comes up behind her and pokes her booty. She gives him a really look and hits him in the arm, and he grabs her and picks her up as they laugh. I say put her down, don't be so rough on her. My son just says okay, puts her down and goes back out. I said, sorry, 3 boys, sometimes they're a little too rough, but he's harmless. She said, I know he is. I used to wrestle with my dad and brother growing up too. I said, your mum let her daughter wrestle her older brother and dad? She said, well, I used to be a boy, so I guess it was different, and giggled. I froze. I said, what? Her face went snow white, and immediately tears rolled down her face. She said, he didn't tell you? I went, no. She said, I think I should leave. I'm sorry. I grabbed her and said, no, stay here. I said, does my son know? She said, yes, he knows. She then said, I always bring it up first date, so if there are issues, we don't waste each other's time. To be honest, I am very surprised, but my son has never been so happy, so I dropped it. I honestly just couldn't believe it. I mean, you'd never know. She is gorgeous. She asked if I thought of her different. I said that you make my son happy, and as long as you treat him right, I won't care. She just said thank you. I called my son today because his dad wants to get to know her more and wants to go to dinner with just them and us. He said sure. I brought up our conversation. He said he knows. He said that she is just really shy about it and doesn't talk about it at all. She just tries to run under the radar. He said that since we'll need to tell Dad, but they discussed me kind of pre-telling my husband, before tomorrow evening. Any idea on how, or should I tell my son before we go that he and her are going to have to do it? Any help would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Now let's have a look at some comments. I think if she wants you to tell your husband first, you should. I can imagine it is a scary thing for her to meet a new partner's family. She probably wants to protect herself from any potential negative reaction. If your husband is told by someone else, he can process and react to the information in any way he does while she's not right in front of him. I do not think you should put the burden on her to come out as trans to a man she doesn't know. If you really do not want to tell your husband, you could tell your son to do it, but one of you should. OP then replies, "At this point I have made my decision to tell my husband a little bit before we leave to meet them for dinner. If he reacts poorly, I will tell my son to not show up. If he reacts well, then we'll see where the night goes. Yes, I am sure she is doing it to protect herself. She came from a very traditional family, and minus her parents, according to her, they all pretty much shunned her away. I may be off base here, but I honestly don't see why anyone except your son actually needs to know. Nobody needs to be told it's information that doesn't really mean anyone to anyone except your son. If it comes up naturally in conversation, then it comes up and that's fine. But it shouldn't ever need to be a whole conversation or some shocking revelation." OP replies, "I honestly was just going to let that be the last conversation about it. Like I said, she makes my son happy, and that's all I care about. It is her idea to bring it up to my husband. I guess to avoid in future issues or confusion. They just asked me to ease him into it." Alright, let's move on to the update. Hello everybody. I would like to just say first, thank you for the kind words. Everything, believe it or not, went very well. I took the advice and told my husband earlier than I'd planned. I told him at noon when we were going to pick up my son. We'll call him Sam, and Sadie at 6. The conversation basically was fairly quick. I just told him I needed to tell him something, and he had to promise me not to be upset. He just said speak. I just said, Sadie is trans. He just went, okay. He said we'll talk later. I said something about dinner and he just said we will talk later. I told Sam and told him I have his back. On the drive to Sam's place, I told my husband that Sam loves her and makes him happy. I explained it took a lot of courage for Sadie to be open with us right from the beginning. My husband just said we will talk later and said I promise I'll be on my best behaviour. We go pick up Sam and Sadie. It was a nice restaurant, so my husband and Sam were in polos and dress pants. Sadie and I were in dresses. They looked so cute together when I saw them. They were matching and everything. We go to dinner, and my husband is acting normal, just asking questions to Sam and Sadie about intentions, how they met, etc. After dinner, I give her a lot of credit. Sadie tried to bring it up with my husband. He just said, hold that thought, let's go get ice cream. Husband is obsessed with ice cream. We'll always find an excuse to get it. So we go as he is just telling jokes to everyone in the car and acting a fool like he always does. We get there and ask what everyone wants. My husband's favourite is chocolate. Mine is cookies and cream, Sam's strawberry, and Sadie's is buttered pecan. I promise this matters. We get our ice cream, and after a few minutes my husband says, "It's weird how there are so many different types of ice cream. When I was a kid there was like 2 or 3. Now they have hundreds it seems." I was confused where my husband was going with this. He then said, "As long as the ice cream that you like tastes good to you and makes you happy, I don't mind forking out a few dollars for a smile." He then winked at Sam and Sadie. That was it. That was the discussion. We took them home and he gave Sam and Sadie each a hug and told Sadie he hopes she can make it to more dinners on the weekends, as we do them often. Sadie said that she will. All I have to say, I held my husband's arm the whole way home. I am guilty I did give him a big present for it. Thank you everyone for your support and kind words. It seems everything is going to be fine. What a super thoughtful, kind and comfortable way to kind of address that situation by the husband there. I love the way he went about it and I love a happy ending. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you were in the father's shoes, would you or would you not be okay with this relationship? Let me know. Okay, let's get right on to the next story. And strap yourselves in, this looks like a big one. Our next story is posted by user TopFile1560 and it's titled, "Getting cheated on and getting a divorce made me realise how much I was missing from life. I, 33 female, Just wanted to share this with everyone who is going through a divorce or a heartbreak for a similar reason. I married someone who I loved with all my heart. We met in college, and right after graduation we got married. I decided to stay home because my husband, 34 male, made a lot of money. I gave him everything, supported his business, cooked for him, cleaned for him, basically babied him a lot because I was in love with him. I thought if I was a good wife and nurtured him, he would love me back. And for like 5 years it was good. I discovered he was cheating on me when I found a random receipt from a hotel. I investigated a little and found out he was in fact cheating on me, and his affair partner was my best friend Kylie, 31 female. I was betrayed by 2 of my closest people. Kylie gave me a vague excuse that she didn't want to hurt me, but she just fell in love with him. His excuse was, "You don't make me feel special anymore. You've just got boring and let yourself go." I agree, I was a little chubby back then because of my medicines. Also, I was always tired to work out. I tried the path of reconciliation but failed. He left me for Kylie. This whole incident made me realize who are my real friends and who are the fake ones. There were people who were neutral, but only 2 of them. Josh and Marie were on my side and cut off Kylie. I was really devastated. I felt like without him, I was a no one. I lost my husband, my best friend, my house, my life. I stayed with Marie for a while. She offered me a small job in her catering business. I love food. When I was married, I would make different varieties of food for my ex-husband. Cooking was just very therapeutic to me. During that time, Marie's mum gave me some useful advice. That is, an average human lives for 75 years. You're already 27. Are you that stupid that you want to waste the rest of your life being sad over a man who never loved you? That thing really stuck with me. I have trust issues because of my husband's infidelity. I had trouble dating, so I skipped it for a while. I focused on working on myself. I socialized with a lot of people while I was catering and made a lot of connections. I always wanted to start a business of my own, and since I loved creating food, a customer I was catering for actually gave me an idea to start a baking business. My friends also helped me a lot. I built a pretty small yet successful baking business within a couple of years. I started to feel more of myself now that I'm free. I didn't realize I had so much free time on my hands because I wasn't busy taking care of a large human. My house was clean. No one is putting dirty laundry on the floor. No one is telling me to make something else because they're not in the mood for a certain dish. Nobody puts dirty dishes on the sink. I started to embrace this solidarity. I know those things I mentioned are not something that is big, but it was a huge relief. Moreover, no one questions me whenever I go out. I don't have to answer anyone before going out. I can spontaneously go on a long drive, and I don't have to ask for permission. I learned a new language within my free time. I focused more on family and friends who genuinely love me. And getting dumped had made me see the red flags I missed in my marriages. I used that as a lesson to steer clear of any trash men in my life. I dated few men, but they didn't seem nice to me. But it didn't bother me a lot. I am happy being single and carefree. I see my divorce as a blessing to me rather than a curse. I do feel alone sometimes, but recently I got a call from Kylie saying that she regrets marrying my ex because he never appreciates her and always puts the burden of everything onto her. They have 2 kids now, but my ex doesn't help her with any chores. She is always tired and exhausted after taking care of 2 kids and an adult. It just made me realize that it would have been me if my husband didn't cheat on me with Kylie. I simply told her, "Well, you said you loved him, so here's your problem now. What's the point of coming to me?" That bee has the audacity to say she wanted a friend. I blocked her number. I don't want to be in their lives. Sometimes I feel like I missed my prime because I'm now 33. It feels too old to start over. But I still have hope for love one day. I'm currently dating a guy who was also divorced like me because his wife cheated on him. So we'll see how that goes. Now let's look at some comments. And the gag is the ex is probably having another Kylie on the side of his wife Kylie. Good on you. Congratulations on everything you achieved on your own. I'm dating at the moment. A lot of women around my age, 36, are looking back at their wasted 20s. The kids they never really wanted. The marriage they signed up for to get approval from their parents. Now they're free of it and happy for it. 33 is still very young. You have many years ahead of you. Why not glow up? Use this as an opportunity to do and get everything you ever wanted and didn't have an opportunity before since he was holding you down. No better revenge against your ex and his hoe than living your best life. Alrighty, let's jump straight into an update. It's titled, "My ex-best friend who is married to my ex-husband hired me to make a cake for her son's birth. I am in a bit of a dilemma. You see, my ex-best friend had an affair with my ex-husband when we were married. Our friendship fell apart right over there. I didn't have any contact with her until a month ago. She called me and said that she's not happy with her life. I've moved on with my life. I don't need their shenanigans. I run a small baking business. It's relatively new. I only take orders for cakes on occasions like birthdays, graduation or reunion, except for weddings. I have some plans to expand it, and also have a dream to open a bakery of my own one day. A few days ago, I get an order from my best friend. She wanted me to make desserts for her son's first birthday, and she doesn't just want me to make a birthday cake. She also wants a dessert section in the birthday party. It's a huge order and the pay is good. It will be good for my business, but as you can see, she and I have a history. This made me question, why does she want me to do it? My ex comes from a well-to-do family. He also has a high-paying job. She could easily hire the best baker in town. Why does she want me to do it? My business is not that big. It made me feel like she's trying to grab my attention, or just trying to sabotage my business. Or maybe she wants to talk to me after I shunned her the last time. On the other hand, the businesswoman inside me says to take it. I know I can do it. The party is huge. There will be many people from affluent backgrounds. I can promote my business to those people. It will boost my revenue as well. I'm thinking if I just avoid her as much as possible, then it will be good. But I don't know. I'm stuck in between. I need some good advice. Here's some advice from the comments. Take it. Make them the best cake you can. Show them that you're not bothered by either of them. The best payback is no payback. OP replies, "Hey, at least this way I'll get some money considering I wasted my 20s on an ungrateful man-child." I wonder if she's just trying to annoy her husband. Just a thought. Maybe she's trying to do the good thing. OP says, "I talked to a friend of mine about it after I got the order. She's in a catering business too. She said that maybe my ex-best friend just wants to compensate for what she's done to me, like a charity." I don't think there's a strong case not to do it. As you say, the money is good, the opportunity is great. If you're serious about your business, you take those opportunities when they come. The alternative is wondering what might have been if you don't take this order, and that doesn't sound like you. The question is, how much contact to have with this person? You could reach out, speak on the day, or just make the order and keep your distance. That side of things is completely up to you. The customer is always right about the product quality and service, but you are fully in control of how you navigate the situation beyond the professional. Opie says, "I do ask customers about the kind of cake they want, so there's a lot of interaction. I could ask her to only contact me through email if she has any reference cake or any inquiry, and only physically contact if necessary." Now OP updates in the comments. "I totally forgot about this post. A lot of people have been asking me what I decided. Sorry to disappoint you guys, I accepted the order. It looked too good to pass it to someone else. Call me a greedy businesswoman all you want, but like you said, ask for advance payment. I did ask for it. They paid in advance. I always ask for advance full payment. I also minimized the contacts with my ex-best friend. So far, the interaction between us has been through email, and also I have an assistant who is a family friend. He knows my situation and is a middleman. I'm documenting everything. I know I'm taking a huge risk with this, but I'm willing to see where it goes. Also, I got to know hiring me was my ex-husband's ideas, not hers. My ex heard about my service from a colleague of his and wanted to hire me. I haven't talked to my ex about this. Most of my communications have been with my ex-best friend. Nothing big happened. I'm still working on it. I'll post a full update after all of this is done. Stay tuned." Alrighty, let's go straight to the last update to this story. "Hi guys, I've read your advice and suggestions. You all made some really good points, so I decided to talk to my mum about it. I just needed her insights about this matter. She told me I should do what I want to do. My boyfriend also encouraged me to take the order. He says that if I had to stay to organise the dessert table, he would be there for me. I took the order, and it turns out it was my ex-husband's idea to hire me, because one of his colleagues recommended my services to him, and it was sort of short notice, so I had to rush this. Anyways, I kept it strictly about business. I did take the payment in advance, just like some of you mentioned. I also asked for advance payments. I mostly maintain communication through email. I have an assistant who is also a family friend of mine to handle all communications. My ex-best friend tried many times to meet with me in person, but I told her to just email me because I do have cake orders for other people too. I only had to meet her one time in person regarding the order. She sent me the details of the party over the email. And like I mentioned, it was a huge order. I didn't just have to make a birthday cake for the baby, it is Pokemon themed. There were also cake pops, cupcakes and macarons. Luckily, I had my friend Marie over for some help. Yes, I did pay her. So like usual, I went to deliver the cakes and the other stuff for the party. There was already a table set up at the venue. My boyfriend, Josh, 35 male, came with me to support me and to keep me away from my ex-husband and ex-best friend as much as possible. As I was busy with myself, my ex approached me and said hello. Not gonna lie, seeing him after so many years, my heart just stopped. This man has given me the worst pain you could possibly give to a human. I'm glad I held my composure. I also said hello back. He tried to have a small talk with me by saying that he's sorry about how things went down and what he said, and also I looked better than the last time he saw me. Then he drops a big bomb. He said all these years he has thought of me, wondering what I was doing, even though he is happy with his married life. I was silent. I didn't say a word. He just kept spewing that he misses me and my cooking. My homemade French onion soup is still his favourite. He misses that every time he gets sick with a flu. I don't know what to say. At that moment, Josh noticed that my ex was making me uncomfortable, and he rushed towards me with a fake emergency. He asked if I was okay. I said yes. After the table setting was done, I was about to leave, and that's when I saw my ex-father-in-law along with other guests. He noticed me and came to give me a hug. My ex-father-in-law is a very humble man. In fact, he was the only man who was on my side when I was going through a divorce with his son. He looked really happy to see me and asked me how I was. He started to chat with me. I talked to him about my business and he gave me some advice. He even talked to my boyfriend. He called Josh a pretty standard guy, whatever that means. Ex-father-in-law was nice and said he would suggest my services to his friends too. He insisted that I stay until lunch is served. I said no a couple of times, but he managed to convince me. I only stayed for 1 more hour or so, but I was fine. I did notice that my ex-best friend was eyeing me from the corner. I was fine because Josh was beside me the whole time. I chatted with some guests. They appreciated my service. I didn't have any more conversations with my ex. I didn't even stay for the cake cutting. I left the first chance I got, but my assistant stayed to make sure everything was fine and for the cleanup. It was overwhelming for me. I saw some of my old friends and my in-laws. My mother-in-law avoided me and some of my old friends just said hello. Later that day I got a message from my ex-best friend on my work email that she liked my service and that her guests really liked my cakes and desserts. She also said sorry. That's not where it ends. I got to know from my friend Marie, who is still in contact with some of my old friend group, that my ex-best friend is not happy with her marriage. When my ex and her are in public, they would often fight a lot. They also fight on the day of their kid's birthday. To be honest, I just told her to not bring me the gossip about her. But the silver lining is I got a huge fat check, lol. I can finally buy a new sugar printer or maybe a good quality oven. Also, I just want to appreciate my boyfriend Josh. He has been incredibly supportive of me. He has protected me from my ex and my ex-best friend like a knight. I think he deserves his own cake from me. And I know a lot of you told me not to take it, but I guess I'm just a greedy Mr. Krabs who cares more about money rather than being classy, hee hee. But this is the last time I'll be taking any orders from them. I know they have a 3-year-old daughter whose birthday will be in 2 months. I think they might try to hire me again. I'll not take it if that happens. P.S. Yes, my ex-best friend did try to communicate with me during the party, but I managed to avoid it thanks to Josh and my ex-father-in-law. My ex-father-in-law knows about my situation and my discomfort with my ex-best friend. He kept me busy with small talk. There you go, guys, that's the end of that one. Personally, if I was in OP's shoes, I would have done the same. Take the money, show off your good life, and leave. They say a good life is the best revenge, and they obviously don't have it good if they're unhappy with their marriage. Seems selfish, but that would honestly make me happy if that happened to me. Alrighty, I'm going to leave you guys with one more story from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was posted by user I like long pubes, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for telling my friend she either uses the mobility scooter at the mall or stay home? A little context. Said friend weighs 350 pounds. The only reason I know this is because we did that BMI thing on TikTok. Anyways, whenever we go to the mall, she'll continuously make us stop because she's out of breath and needs to sit. It's really annoying because it takes the time we have to shop. And not only does she make us sit, but she whines about how tired she is while we're walking. It's gotten to the point my group of friends and I have been debating whether or not we should even invite her at all. So I was like, you know what would fix this? Why doesn't she just use one of those mobility scooters? First, she wouldn't be as tired and out of breath, and second, it would fix our time issue. So my friends and I FaceTimed her and basically told her about our idea and asked if she was down with it. She almost busted a tit over this and went on to ask if we were saying this to call her fat. I said no, and that we were asking because we can't deal with her constantly having to stop, and basically how I didn't get why she was so offended when we were just trying to help. She called us awful people and started saying how she couldn't control it because of her weight, and we just needed to deal with it. I went on to say she was being selfish and asked how it was fair to us we waste all our time because she makes bad food choices, and said it was either she used the scooter or she could stay home. She went on to cuss me out and hung up. All my friends think I was being nicer than they would have been, and they're completely on my side. My mum thinks I was a little harsh, but she said she probably would have also done the same thing. It got me thinking if I was the actual jerk here. So, am I the a-hole? Jesus Christ, your friend has a serious weight problem and it's a detriment to her health. I definitely wouldn't have been as nice as you have been. I think you should be straight up with these people when they say, "Oh, are you doing that to call me fat?" I'd just say, yes, you are fat, you're unhealthy, and you need to lose weight. Like, it's as simple as that. Especially when you can't even do something as simple as walking around a mall and shopping. That's seriously bad. Not the a-hole for me, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. Am I the a-hole for blowing up on my husband over chicken Alfredo? I, 35 female, am married to my husband, 42 male. We've been together since our early 20s and have 3 small children, all under 10. He's a mechanic and works anywhere from 60 to 80 hours a week, while I work as a hostess 3 days a week at a restaurant while the kids are at school. I do the majority of the housework and childcare, and I don't mind as I understand he has a hard job and works a lot. He gets the kids on the bus every morning because he leaves for work about 10 minutes afterwards. All I ask of him is to do his laundry, as his clothes are covered in oil and grime and need to go in by themselves and pick up after himself because the kids destroy the house enough. A couple times a week he'll help with dinner and clean up at the end of the day as well. Over the last 2 months, he's completely stopped helping. He dumps his clothes on the laundry room floor. His half of the bedroom is a mess. He leaves cans and wrappers all over the living room, and he's even stopped getting the kids up, which has upset them as they love their mornings with Dad. He's also been coming home hours later than usual. I've been letting it slide as he seems very stressed out, but a few days ago he snapped at me for being a crappy wife for letting his clothes go unwashed. I reminded him that he always did his own laundry, and he hadn't even asked me to do it. I've been doing it, I just hadn't gotten to it yet. He just grumbled and went to go watch TV. Last night I made chicken Alfredo. We have it about once a week because the kids love it and no one's ever complained. Well, he complained and moaned through the whole dinner. Said that, since I'm not taking care of the house, I should at least put a good meal on the table. That I've just been letting the whole family go to crap and I should be ashamed of myself for treating him and his children like that. Called me a bad wife and mother in front of our children. I told the children to go to their rooms and snapped. I screamed at him about how much I do for the household, that if it wasn't for me, the place would be trashed, and he has no right to treat me like this over chicken Alfredo. We went back and forth for a while before he left, and I have no idea where he went, and he isn't answering my calls or texts. I feel bad now, as I shouldn't have reacted like that, especially because I know he's just stressed from work, but it all just kind of built up and came out at once. I just want to know if I was wrong for freaking out on him like that. Alrighty, let's take a look at some comments. I sincerely hope I'm mistaken, but your dear husband may be having an affair and setting you up to be the bad wife and mother to justify his behaviour. Opie replies, the thought of an affair hadn't really crossed my mind. I know that his job lost an employee, so the workload has gotten bigger, so I really hope it's just that. Everyone sucks here. You for yelling and waiting too long to bring up the issue, and him for obvious reasons. I think something is going on with your husband for having that big of a shift. Any midlife crisis or mood changes? Could he possibly be looking for a way out of the marriage? Opie replies, I agree that I definitely should have said something sooner. As far as I know, his work lost one of their best employees, so everyone else has had more added to their workload. He doesn't talk much about what's bothering him or going on with his work life, but when I do hear from him, I want to sit down and talk and work this out. In the past 2 months, have you attempted to find out why your partner changed so drastically? Opie replies, I have asked him, but he tends to brush me off and says he doesn't want to think about work. I do know they recently lost an employee and the workload has gotten bigger for everyone, but he's had co-workers quit in the past and never behaved like this. Have you looked at his paychecks recently? Opie replies. He gets direct deposit to his account that I have no access to, and then transfers the amounts for bills into our joint account. I'm not sure what he does with his pay stubs, but I never see them. Something is awry, and it's not you. Couples cancelling now, but keep a watch on your money and protect your kids. Sounds like your husband is checking out. Opie replies, we have separate accounts and a joint account for bills that we both transfer to. I don't make much at my job, but I do have savings from an inheritance I got a few years ago. Some other comments suggest that he is either exhausted from working so much or he lost his job and isn't actually going to work and can't admit it. Alrighty guys, now on to a couple short updates for this story. Update. I called my husband for the 100th time because he still hadn't come home and the kids wanted to know where he was, and a woman answered. I didn't recognise her voice and he doesn't have a sister. I asked her to put me on the phone with my husband and she asked who I was. I said I was his wife and she laughed into the phone and told me he was busy. We went back and forth, with her laughing at me the whole time before telling me she'll send him home soon and hanging up. It's now the next morning and he's still not home. I really didn't think he was cheating. I'd really hoped this was just a rough patch, but it looks like most of you were right. I'm heartbroken and a little in shock and not really sure what to do right now. My brother said I should come stay with him, and I might, or maybe just bring the kids so they don't have to see us fight. I might update again or I might not, but I'm sure you all know where this is heading anyway. Now for update 2. He came home a few hours after I last updated. I immediately confronted him about the woman answering. He denied cheating and said it was one of his friends messing with me because he stayed at a friend's house and they must have answered his phone. I told him I don't believe him and to pack some things and leave because I want a divorce. He blew up at this, telling me it was his home. My parents bought us the house when we got married, and that he was not going to leave. We argued for a while until I called my brother. My brother lives about 20 minutes away, so we got to the house very quick, and once he got there my husband calmed down and packed a bag. Once he was gone, my brother helped me contact a divorce lawyer. My brother and his wife check in with us every day. We're all safe, and I've had very minimal contact with my now ex-husband. I probably won't update again. Alrighty guys, so that's the end of that one. Let me know what you think in the comments. To be honest, when I started reading the first post, I thought for sure this was not ending in an affair or anything like that. But it turns out Reddit was right for once. Who knew, right? But yeah, it seemed like the husband had kind of checked out of the marriage pretty early on. That's why he was saying all those things like that she was a bad mother and wife and that. I reckon he was saying that to kind of justify his actions a little bit more. Anyway, let me know what you guys reckon in the comments and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, our next story was posted in the relationship advice subreddit. It was written by a throwaway account and it's titled, I, 35 male, was incarcerated and lost touch with 33 female. It's been over 10 years. Would it be wrong to contact her? Sorry for any mistakes, English is not my first language. When I was a university student, I fell in love with Daria. Not her real name, obviously. She was the little sister of my best friend, so I considered her off limits, but my crush on her persisted and grew. She's one of these beautiful, brilliant people who is alive and breathing to make the world a better place. How could I not be drawn to that? One day, she told me she had feelings for me, and to my relief, my best friend didn't have a problem with me dating his sister either. So for 2 wonderful years, Daria was my girlfriend. I should have asked her to marry me. I don't know why I didn't. I suppose I thought I had all the time in the world. We were young and there was no need to rush things. We lived in a country that isn't exactly democratic, and we were political activists. I ended up getting arrested and going to prison for 9 years. Please don't think I'm some kind of monster for this. I don't want to go into detail in case it makes me identifiable somehow, but we didn't hurt anyone or do anything immoral. What we did is not even illegal in the country where I currently live, and our beliefs were far from extremist. I haven't seen or spoken to Daria since the day I got arrested. My best friend died shortly after, and Daria left the country, partly due to the possibility that she'd be arrested too. There wasn't any way for her to contact me while I was in prison, though apparently she contacted my dad a few times in the beginning. Things got even worse in our country while I was incarcerated, so my dad and I emigrated when I was released. We've been living in Western Europe ever since, and life is pretty okay. I live with my dad, and I have a steady, if crappy, job. Months ago, I found Daria online. She lives in a neighbouring country, 7 hours away by rail. She doesn't use social media too much, but from what I've seen there's no evidence of a partner or kids. And even if she's married, I'd be content just to be her friend, as I was for the first years we knew each other. Part of me desperately wants to reach out to her, and my dad has been encouraging me to do so, but I feel like it'd be too selfish. The circumstances of her brother's death were very traumatic for her, and I'm afraid that I'm just a living reminder of all the bad things that happened to us. And if she does have a partner, would my contacting her offend him and trouble their relationship? I don't want to cause her any more sadness. Time stood still for me while I was in prison, but I know it didn't for her or anyone else. She's done so well for herself. She's built a whole life, and I don't want to derail that life just because I feel entitled to a place in it. She might not even remember me at all, and even if she did invite me back into her life, I'd be nothing but a burden now, owing to my wrecked mental health. We've been apart twice as long as I knew her. Have I even the right to miss her as much as I do? For now, I've contented myself with Googling her name every so often and seeing that she's okay. It just hurts a lot, and I don't know how to make it not hurt. I still love her with everything I have. I probably always will. Should I reach out to her or leave her alone? If I do contact her, what should I even say? Wow, that's a tricky one, guys. What do you reckon? I say go for it. Life's too short. If what you had between this person was, real, then why throw it away? I'd say contact her. Also, can I just say, for someone whose first language isn't English, this is written better than 90% of stories I read on here that are written by English speakers. The sentence structure, the formatting, it's way better than most of the stories I read on here, so props to OP for that. Anyway, let me know what you guys reckon in the comments. Should he contact her or should he just let it go? Most people in the comments are saying that he should. Anyway, let's jump to the update. The update is titled, I contacted her and she responded. Previous post is here. The short version is that I was wondering whether I should try to contact my former girlfriend after I went to prison for a long time. The consensus was that I should, and people gave very good advice on how to do that. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who offered advice or kind words. I had spent so long feeling ashamed about my situation, and expecting most people to react very negatively if they knew. I had barely discussed it with anyone before, except my dad and people whose job it is to help me, lawyers, therapists, etc. And I was very surprised to be met with so much compassion from a bunch of complete strangers. Thank you, truly. Several people asked for an update, and that's the least I can do in return. I sent Daria a message the evening after I made my post. It was something like, I don't mean to intrude, but I wanted to say hello and thought I would give you my new contact information in case you ever felt like getting in touch. If not, that's completely fine too. I left her my mobile number and email address, wished her well, and that was that. I knew it might be a while before she responded, if she responded at all, so I tried to put it out of my mind. Early Monday morning, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number from the country where Daria lives. Who else would ever be calling me from there? I panicked a little bit, but I managed to answer in time. She asked a few times if it was really me, and I couldn't tell if she was laughing or crying. At first she called me by the very affectionate version of my name she used to, but then she quickly apologized and corrected herself, which broke my heart a little bit. It was an awkward phone call, but not in a bad way. I was extremely nervous, and it seemed like she was too, but happy also. Some of you mentioned that Daria would want to know that I was safe, and this was more true than I could have guessed, because unrest in my country increased a lot during the last year I was in prison. She was afraid that they would decide to quietly kill me rather than let me go. There are documented cases of other prisoners like me having met very suspicious ends in the months before my release, so it wasn't a totally unreasonable worry. She also said she repeatedly tried to send me parcels of supplies and put money on my commissary account, but her attempts were rejected without explanation. After my sentencing, I was not allowed to receive correspondence or to have a commissary account at all because of the classification of my crimes, so she was forced to give up. She told me this as an apology, as if I would have been disappointed with her for not helping me more. I had no idea she had done any of that. I do know that it was not a safe thing for her to do, and I feel terrible that she put herself at risk trying to make me a little more comfortable. She didn't seem to want to talk about what happened any more than that, and so we didn't. We changed the subject to more light-hearted things, our jobs, the cities where we live, how my dad is adapting to a new country, etc. When she arrived at work and had to end the phone call, she asked if I wanted to continue talking through a messaging app. Obviously I said yes, and downloaded it immediately. We sent messages throughout the day, and she even interrupted her commute home to send me a picture of a restaurant modelled after one of my favourite books, just because she thought I would like it. She told me that she thought of me every time she saw it, but unfortunately the restaurant itself was not so good. I was afraid she wouldn't remember me, but she even remembers the things I like to read. She remembers a lot of little things, even stuff I forgot. We've been sending messages back and forth ever since, and talking on the phone after I finish work at night, until she gets too sleepy. Sometimes it feels like I'm 24, and she's texting me from a few blocks away, as if the next thing she might ask is what's for dinner. Other times it seems like we're trying to will dead versions of ourselves back to life in order to avoid acknowledging what we've lost. She seems a lot more timid than she used to, more passive, which I suppose makes sense. Sometimes I worry about how much I've changed, and that maybe she won't find anything left of me that's worthy of her. But if I could express in words what it feels like to hear her laugh, I could explain that there's also a lot that we know very well. She hasn't lost her kindness, or her warmth, or her empathy. She still cares about me, and I still care about her. I know that rebuilding a friendship after all that's happened will take lots of patience, and I have plenty to spare. I'm just happy to have the chance to get to know her again. This morning, Daria asked if I wanted to have a video call sometime this weekend. I agreed, but I'm ashamed to admit that as much as I want to see her, I'm very nervous. I look so different than she would remember. My jaw is messed up, and I have the teeth of a hockey player. Fortunately, I will qualify for healthcare insurance soon, and be able to have it fixed. I lost weight that I haven't put back on, and I see an old man in the mirror. I'm also worried that I'll get very emotional when I see her, and embarrass myself that way. I don't really cry in front of people. I'm not used to it, and this doesn't seem like a good occasion to start. Aside from not wanting to appear pitiful, I don't want her to feel forced to comfort me. If anyone has some advice on how to handle this, it would be much appreciated. Overall, this week could not have gone better, and I'm extremely grateful to everyone who gave me the little push of courage I needed to send her that message. 1,000 times, thank you. Wow, this is turning into a very happy story, isn't it? I'm really rooting for these two. Let's have a look at some comments. I'm so happy to read your update. OP, you deserve everything good, and I'm sure Daria feels the same about you that you do to her. I bet she's beyond happy to be able to hear you laughing with her again as well. As for advice regarding the video call, maybe you could go out and get a haircut before you talk to her, and wear a nice shirt on the day. I don't think Daria is going to judge you one way or the other, but it could act as a nice boost to your self-confidence before you see her face to face for the first time in so long. All the very best, OP. I wish you nothing but happiness. I'm hoping to read another heartwarming update like this one next week. I'm so happy to hear that things went so well and you are back in such wonderful contact. I personally wouldn't worry too much about your appearance. You could get a haircut and shave before making the call, but really I think she'll just be happy to actually have the visual confirmation that you're alive. And please don't be ashamed of looking the way you do. You went through hell, and hell leaves scars, emotionally and physically. The way you look is what a survivor looks, and that is what matters. You survived. She clearly had thought a lot about you and worried about you, so seeing you alive is what this is about. Your jaw or teeth might not be perfect anymore, but they are the jaw and teeth of a living person, and that fact alone matters a lot more than if they're straight. I remember your post. I remember replying to it. I'm glad you followed the advice lots of us gave you. I'm actually going to just sit here and cry my tears of joy that you may get a good ending after all from what we advised you. Just remember, one step at a time. Also, don't be afraid to cry. Even if together forever is not meant to be, this reunion is big enough for the tears to flow. Hell, I'm tearing up reading your post. Okay, can't wait for the next update. Let's go straight there. Update 2. I've had a lot of people ask for an update, so here it is. The last 2 months have gone by very fast. I told Daria that I was nervous about the video call, and she insisted on having it right away so that I could get over with it and stop worrying. Seeing her made everything feel real in a way it hadn't before. She still looks like herself, or even more beautiful, different only in the sense that she is fully an adult now. The place she lives in is very different from our home country, with a distinct culture to which she has assimilated. That she had time to adapt and feel completely at home in this place broke the illusion that no time had passed. In hindsight, that was probably the real reason I'd been so nervous, because I could no longer occasionally forget myself and pretend that nothing had changed. The hardest part was not being able to reach through the screen and put my arms around her. Sitting there and watching someone you love cry from a distance is not easy. I barely noticed that I was crying too. She didn't seem surprised at my appearance, but she did eventually look me over and ask if the food was crap where I lived. I explained about my jaw and that I'm getting it fixed. Less dental work is required than I thought, but I need a surgery. Her response was to ask for my address and order groceries to be delivered, including a lot of soft snacks that are easy to eat, and these meal substitution drinks that are really tasty. She sent them every week since, even though I tell her it's not necessary. When I wanted to pay her back, she laughed at me and said she owed me a lot of food because I'd kept her from starving to death in university. I loved being able to cook for her, and I suppose it makes her just as happy to feed me now. We talk every day and have made video calls a regular habit. It does me so much good just to see her face, and the awkwardness is mostly gone now. It's easy to talk to her. Last night, she brought her computer into the kitchen and talked to me while doing the washing up. It's amazing how mundane things like that can make me feel normal, and at home, in ways I forget I could. I never thought I'd be that stupidly happy to see someone washing coffee cups. I'm beginning to think that the idea of home as a physical place is a misconception. She likes to send photos to show me where she lives, what her life is like now. She was curious about how things are the same or different here. I didn't want to admit that I don't have much of a life to share back. Going places just didn't seem worth the effort. She is, though. At first it was very small things. She would send a picture of a pastry she'd bought at a cafe, saying that she thinks her city has better pastries than mine. I would go out and get one so I could send her a photo too. Then it was beer, which city has better parks, interesting architecture, a department store, and so on. I figured out quickly that she was trying to coax me into going out more, but I played along to make her happy. I've seen more of my city in the past month than the entire time I've lived here before. I've been to the art museum, and finally joined my colleagues for a beer. Usually I go places for short durations at the less crowded times, but I'm still going, which is something. Daria used to be very sociable, so I thought that whatever happened, at least she wouldn't be lonely. I was wrong. There is a lot she could never tell her friends because they can't relate. They would feel sorry for her and cease to be equals, she says. Our experiences are different, but we are more able to understand each other than other people could. And despite her own burden, she has quietly picked up half the weight from my shoulders without ever being asked to. I am in awe of her, simply for being the kind of person who would. For Women's Day, I sent her some orchids, and she was very happy that I remembered her favourite flower. The things I can do to make her smile are so small, and she deserves so much more than I know how to give her, but I would do anything for this woman, and I am learning. There are protests happening where she is, with riot police and tear gas. Whenever this happens, she feels nervous and has difficulty sleeping. Now, at least, I can stay on the phone with her at night so she's not alone. Aside from the anxiety, there is also a sense of nostalgia. She talks about when that was us, making noise in the street. I'm glad she has good memories too, and doesn't have to be alone with them anymore. Finally, the reason I am updating now. She is coming to visit. We were talking last night, and I mentioned that a church near me has special windows designed by an artist she loves, and I was thinking about going to see them eventually. She said it would be unfair of me to go without her, so I invited her to come with me. And then somehow, it turned from vague future plans to being scheduled for next Saturday. She was going to come for the day, but I told her it was silly to travel so far to stay for such a short time, and suggested she stay the entire weekend. So she will be here from Friday until Sunday. I haven't really had time to be nervous yet, but I'm sure I will. Thank you again to everyone who has given advice or encouragement. It is very much appreciated. Wow, so there you go guys, that's the end of that one. Let me know what you think. Personally, it's rare these days that I read a story and feel emotional in the way that I have reading this one. I mean, it's so well written by someone who's not an English speaker, for starters, And second, it's just such a beautiful story. Like, I really hope it works out for these two, and I'm sure it will, going by what I've heard. I broke up with my boyfriend because of his views on cheating. This is a throwaway. I don't know what to feel. Me, 25 female, and my boyfriend, 28 male, have been together for 3 years now. We have been living together for 2 years. I know his family. He has one brother, Sam, 33 male, who is married to Lisa, 32 female. They have one daughter who is 4 years old. He is very close to his brother, which resulted in me being closer to his wife and kids too. Sam sometimes comes to our place and plays video games with my boyfriend. One day, when they were playing video games, Sam put his phone on a charger in our guest room. I was there cleaning the windows when suddenly his phone buzzed. I went to look, and there was a girl named Office texting him, "I had a great time last night. Your tongue is magic," with some emojis. I was a little shocked. Sam always shows how much he adores his wife. Even Lisa says he is the best husband. How could he cheat? This was the first incident. Then one day, when he was at our house again, he was talking loudly while I was right by the kitchen while he was talking on the phone in our guest room with doors open. He was saying, "I love you," to a girl's name, Beth. This confirmed my suspicion even more. I told my boyfriend I think his brother is cheating on his wife. I asked him if he knows anything about it. His expression went blank. He told me he knew about it. I was perplexed. I asked, what does he mean? He began to tell me Sam has been seeing other girls on the side. He doubled it down, saying it's not a big deal because Lisa is happy. He is happy. And plus he doesn't like to mix in other people's business. I asked him if he thinks that his brother cheating on Lisa was right. How could he defend his brother over something so vile? He told me it is their personal life. Plus he doesn't want to ruin his brother's marriage. I told him firmly his brother's marriage was already ruined the moment he decided to stick his dick inside someone else that isn't his wife, and he's clearly wrong for supporting him. How would he feel if I was cheating on him and my sister knew and never told him? If he told, of course he would feel bad, but this isn't about him. I just told him to leave me alone. Cheating is a deal breaker for me. I do not like people who are cheaters or support cheating. I can't even look at him the same way I used to. So, a few weeks ago, I called him and told him this isn't working. I cannot be with someone who supports cheating and doesn't mind someone else cheating. He cried and told me to not do it. That he will do better and this isn't fair on him. I cannot punish him for what his brother is doing. I told him calmly that this is not a punishment, but my decision. I already told him that cheating is a deal breaker for me. I will not tolerate it in any shape or form. I went to stay with my brother. 2 days later, I went to our place to get some stuff of mine. He asked me if he could talk. I said, sure. He told me he was wrong for not saying anything against his own brother. Lisa is a good woman, and that he would ask his brother to stop. I told him that doesn't make me feel any better. The fact that he thinks it's okay to cheat clearly shows he has no problem with cheating on me. He told me he is not cheating on me, and that he will be better. I asked him if he could tell Lisa about his husband's affair. He went silent, and told me he can't go against his own brother. Well then, I guess he made his choices. I left his place, leaving him crying on his couch. I feel bad. I love him, but the trust I had for him is gone. I do not know how to tell everything to Lisa. I'm not sure what to do. I feel lost. Edit. To those idiots who say that my boyfriend is not wrong, I hope you find yourself in a similar situation as Lisa. I would like to know how you'd feel when you learn that your husband has betrayed you, and people close to you knew about it and let you get cheated on day after day. He has covered for his brother on many occasions. He has lied to Lisa, telling her that Sam is with him when he was not. Even if he didn't tell him, simply acting it's not a big deal that a woman who is so loyal to her husband is getting cheated on is wrong and malicious in my eyes. Him concealing his cheating is also putting her at risk of STDs. And also, what if Sam got one of those girls pregnant? Ever thought about that? It's not like they were in an open or poly relationship. Edit 2. I cannot comment on my own post. What's up with that? It gets removed. But to anyone asking, I will tell Lisa. She is currently out of town. I can send her a message, but I have no evidence that Sam is cheating. Plus, she told me she would not be near her phone. Alright, let's go straight to the comments. You did right, but tell me you tell Lisa that her POS husband cheated on her. You are defined by the company you keep, and your ex picked to be on the wrong side of morality. I know it must be difficult, but love is pretty much worthless without loyalty. He was covering for his brother's infidelity. You made the right call. If he had cheated on you, his brother would have covered for him. Congrats on recognizing a moral flaw in his character and realizing he would not make a trustworthy long-term partner. But he is afraid to expose his brother. He is relying on someone else to do that for him. Tell Lisa her husband is cheating on him, and to look up Office and Beth on his phone. It's up to her what she does from there. Yeah, I agree. I'd say telling the wife would probably be the best thing to do, or just maybe letting her know that something might be going on. Like Opie said, she doesn't really have any, solid proof, but I think just telling her, I feel like a close partner would have a pretty easy way of figuring something like that out, if they had the idea in their mind. Yeah, the brother is definitely out of line here, and good on Opie for sticking by her morals. If cheating is a deal breaker for her, then I guess it makes sense that she couldn't see a long-term partner in someone who could defend that kind of action. Anyway, let's jump to the next update. Hello guys, thanks for all the kind words. I wanted to make an update the day after I posted it to reassure you guys I did tell Lisa, but something came up and I was delayed. So I did tell her the very day I made this post, even though I had no evidence. I got some encouragement from you guys too. For all I knew, she could scream at me. But hey, if that happens, at least I wouldn't have to live with this giant guilt that I misled a friend of mine. I talked to Lisa, telling her everything on the phone. She just told me she can't speak right now and thanked me for informing, which was weird. I didn't hear from her for the next 3 days. I only heard from her when my ex called my brother to yell at me. He called me a homewrecker because I snitched to Lisa, and today she took her daughter and served Sam divorce papers. I was even more confused. It's not possible to file a divorce paper within 3 days. I called Lisa. She didn't pick up but texted me to come to Sam's house. I went with my brother because I didn't know how safe it is for me. When I entered, I saw my ex, Sam, and their parents along with Lisa. Sam looked really crap. My ex jumped on me by saying I did this to his brother. Lisa told my ex to calm down. She carries on to explain that she already knew Sam was cheating for a while. One of the girls he hooked up with contacted her and showed her the messages between him and her. That girl worked in his office. The girl felt guilty knowing that she hooked up with a married man, and so she told Lisa before quitting her job. I'm guessing she felt really guilty and couldn't work there or something. Lisa further told us she has been planning on leaving Sam since then. She needed time to get her things sorted and gather evidence that will help her in court. She was mostly a homemaker but worked part-time, so there were financial issues too. She went on to expose Sam even more of his deeds in front of his own parents and told Sam she wants full custody because Sam bringing one of his hoes around her daughter is not safe. From what she described, Sam is pretty screwed in the divorce. She also didn't spare my ex. She basically told him she has never treated him like an outsider, that if someone was cheating on him, she would definitely tell him, even if that someone was her own family member. She finds it really sad that she had to know from a stranger what his brother was up to, rather than someone closer to her, and someone she loved like a brother. My ex was silent. A lot more things came to light because there was a lot of yelling and pointing fingers. Sam has been cheating on Lisa for 3 years. My ex knew it for the last 2 years and has been covering for Sam. Sam's parents were disappointed at him as well, and apparently my ex also lied to his parents about why we broke up. He told his parents I fell in love with someone else, and that's why I left him. Why he did that? Because his stupid brother thought it was a great cover-up. Because even if I told Lisa, then no one would believe in me because I was the one who cheated and projecting it onto his brother. Lisa called me here to clean my name and also thanked me for informing her, even if she knew it all along. Their parents apologized to both of us and told us they are ashamed of their sons. I just felt bad for them. After that, I went home. Lisa asked me if she could stay with me. I said sure. She was stoic when she was talking to Sam and his parents, but as soon as she entered my house, she broke down in tears. She told me that she should have listened to her friends, who told her Sam was not a decent person. She left her job and her law study so that she could be with him. I felt really bad for her. I know this will be really rough on her and her daughter. I wish there was more I could do, but I'm really impressed that she handled this situation with such poise. I hope she decides to continue her law studies like she wanted to. She sacrificed a lot for that bastard. Also, to all those people who think that my ex was right not to snitch on his brother, you guys don't see how he is putting her at risk? Sam was having sex with literally everything that has a hole. You guys think it would be better to keep her in the dark? I know she knew about it, but what if she didn't? What if Sam's careless whoring put her in danger of STD? Some STDs are life-threatening, like HIV. Him not coming clean of his brother's deeds was seriously putting her in danger of it, and I wasn't punishing him. I simply cannot live with someone who would support cheating. To me, that is exactly like cheating. Moreover, he lied and covered for him. Who is to say he wouldn't mind cheating on me, because he clearly thinks cheating is not a big deal. Even if he wasn't covering for them, the mere fact that he thinks it's okay for someone to get cheated on is a huge no for me. I'm really shocked to see how many people are willing to take the cheater's side instead of the one who's getting cheated on. Oh wow, there you go, so the wife kind of knew about it for a while there. That's interesting. Alright, let's jump to the last update. Wow, it has been almost 2 months. Crazy. I thought I should give you guys an update. First of all, I'm still in contact with Lisa. I mean, she seems like a cool person, so I continued my contact with her. Regardless of what relationship I had with my ex, I did find a good friend in Lisa. My ex did reach out to me. I met him on a public space. He said sorry for lying about our breakup. He was angry at me because I broke up with him because of what his brother was doing. He also said that he never wanted his brother's family to implode like that. That's why he hid it from everyone. I reminded him that he didn't just hide it, he actively supported it and helped him cover up. Does he not feel a little bit guilty for lying to her sister-in-law? Lisa thought of him as her brother, and he betrayed that trust. I told him it was never about his brother. It was about him being a coward and putting Lisa in danger of losing everything. He should have at least told his brother to stop or confront him, but he didn't. His moral views and mine are completely different, and I cannot build a future with someone who thinks cheating is okay, as long as the other person who is being cheated on doesn't know about it. He could easily cheat on me. He said he understands and doesn't blame me. He even got a lot of crap from his parents for covering up for his brother. We ended things in good terms, until the incident that happened a month ago. Lisa and Sam have agreed on shared custody until the divorce is finalised. On weekends, their daughter, Ali, stays with him. So, like a month ago, Ali was there. Sam asked my ex to come over because he wants someone to babysit Ali while he and his girlfriend are spending time with each other. Remind you, they were still in the same house, but in Sam's room. Sam prepared lunch for Ali. He gave her a sandwich that contained soy bacon. She is allergic to soy. My ex was busy playing on the PlayStation, and Sam was busy with his floozy in another room when she was eating it. I swear to God, that man doesn't care about anyone other than his penis. Ali had a bad reaction to the soy and was taken to the hospital. There, Lisa chewed them out for good. She is now adamant about getting the primary custody of Ali. And don't worry, the poor girl is fine. As for Lisa, she's gotten a good full-time job. She's thinking about doing her law studies once this whole thing settles. She has a friends with benefits kind of situation. It's nothing serious as far as I know. She wants to stay focused on her and her daughter. Alrighty guys, so that's the end of that one. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. Yeah, glad to hear Lisa got out of there, and it sounds like she's in a pretty good situation herself as well, getting herself a job and, moving on from that old guy. Alrighty, let's jump to our next story. Okay, our next one was posted on the Confession subreddit. It was written by user Aroused but Conflicted, interesting, and it's titled, Received Open-Ended Proposition from Female Co-worker Recently. Seriously considering accepting. Married, mid-30s father of 2 here. Considered myself very happily married up until 2 weeks ago. I have a very attractive younger colleague who I've been working with for a little over a year. We immediately hit it off professionally, work very well together, and have received accolades from superiors for our collaborations. She recently left a signed note on my desk drawer, confessing that she was wildly attracted to me, wanted to have sex, and didn't care if it was a one-time only thing or ongoing. She also said she knew I was married, knew it was wrong to suggest, but could no longer stay quiet, and would leave the decision to me. I haven't answered her yet, and she hasn't said another word about it in the meantime, but our working relationship has, of course, become quite weird. I keep wondering why I haven't responded with a simple, "Thanks, I'm very flattered, but couldn't possibly." Simple answer is that the more I think about it, the more attractive the idea becomes. Don't know what to do. This confession could almost be linked to our last story. Married guy cheats on his wife with a female co-worker. Interesting, the similarities here. Anyway, let's look at the comments. Consider what you'd want your wife to do in a similar situation. Consider how your kids would feel enduring a divorce. Consider how messy your work situation would become afterwards. Obviously, you've considered the benefits. Just make sure it's worth it. This is your chance to be the man you promised your wife to be. No younger attractive woman should change that. Be a good man. Make sure she wrote the note. Could be some other co-workers pulling your leg. But I'd say decline. Not only could you get in trouble at work, but you can't afford a divorce. You might think you can, but you can't. Yeah, I think it's pretty self-explanatory here to just maybe not accept that proposition. This comment's a classic. Good rule of thumb for all major life decisions. Jack off before you make any and all major life decisions. Yeah, good advice. Let's jump to the update. Wanted to say thanks to all who commented, and for the good advice from many. Made me think hard. On Sunday, I showed my wife the note and told her I was going to ask to be assigned to work with someone else, and asked her opinion about any other steps I should take. She started crying and hugged me, said she always was suspicious of my colleague, had sensed that she was attracted to me and had been somewhat worried, even suspicious of me a few times, for which she apologised. We ended up talking about it for several hours, and it was wonderful to clear the air with her and get this load off my shoulders. Yesterday, I asked my colleague to go to coffee with me. I handed her the note back and told her I could do no such thing, even though I'd been briefly tempted. Then I told her I thought it would be best if we mutually sought to be reassigned. I told her, at my wife's suggestion, that I had spoken to my wife about the issue and that she had suggested I photocopy the note and take it to HR, but that I didn't want to go that route, and would rather that we both came out of this okay, with our jobs intact. Left hanging was the implication that I'd probably had made a copy of the note, and that since my wife knew, I had backup should any crap later hit the fan. She was fighting back tears at this point, and kept apologising for putting me in this position, and said she would do whatever I thought was best. So we worked it out that we would both approach our boss together and say that while we were happy with our work to date, we were both looking for new challenges and perhaps new team members. That meeting is planned for tomorrow, and I believe the boss, who is a very smart woman, will get the message and reassign us both without prejudice. Once again, thanks for the good advice, Redditors. If there's interest, I will post a follow-up to tomorrow's meeting. Edit. Thanks for all the nice comments. I feel a little overwhelmed. A couple of you raised good points, which I want to address. Yes, I did tell my wife that I had been tempted, and I apologise for not immediately sending the note back. She said yes, I should have done that, but that she understood. She has met my colleague several times in business settings, and has commented more than once that she is very attractive, and is surprised she's still single. Clearly, I should have immediately turned down the offer. I never considered myself someone who would stray. I was, in retrospect, kind of obnoxiously proud of the image I had of myself as a good man and husband. That image is now quite different. This has been a wake-up call, and I've been doing much more soul-searching than I care to detail. Looking back at my posts, I have cast my colleague in a one-dimensional light. She is a good person, a very good person. She has been an excellent colleague, and everyone we work with has nothing but praise for her. The chemistry between us was almost immediately apparent, but I chalked it up to us having very similar backgrounds and outlooks on the best way to get things done. But looking back, I have to be honest in saying that what I thought was just collegiality on my part could have been constructed as flirting, and I have to take my share of the blame for that. If she made a mistake in being tempted and sending that note, I made one in not turning her down immediately, and in involving other people that would have been better uninvolved. Alrighty folks, so there you go, that's the end of that one. A good ending there. Opie did the right thing, I think. Let me know what you think in the comments. Have you been in a similar situation perhaps? I might just end it on this one comment that I thought was very fitting and probably a good idea to use in relationships in the future. I don't know, everyone's different, but I thought I'd read it anyway. Married 15 years. A rule in our marriage is that we immediately disclose when we think someone is crushing on us, or when we're concerned we are crushing on someone else. 2 reasons. 1. Because being desired is a uniquely strong feeling that has the potential to ruin otherwise strong judgment, and we've found bringing it forward to your partner is the best way to remove that hold that feeling has over you, so you can proceed rationally instead of the secret grabbing you. 2nd, because I'm a terrible judge of intention and have accidentally gone on 2 dates with 2 separate people who I thought I was reciprocating feelings, only to find out I just thought they were friendly, and it led to mortifying experiences for them. The first reason should be good enough for most stable relationships who wish to remain stable. Finally, if you're in a relationship where you don't feel like you'd be able to honestly discuss something like this happening, that's an opportunity for reflection. And shout out to my co-worker who took it upon herself to be my anti-wingman and began responding to any new hires who would go, "Oh, who's that?" with an aggressive, "That's OP, and he's super married." Am I the a-hole for telling my future in-laws that it's not a wedding gift unless it's given to both people, and telling my fiancé I don't want to live in a house I don't own? My fiancé, 27 female, and I, 29 male, grew up very differently. I was an immigrant who moved here when I was 6, and we were definitely struggling a lot. My parents worked extremely hard to provide for me and my siblings, and they always prioritised our education over everything. My dad always told me it was his dream to live in a house that he owned, since we'd always rented, but he couldn't save up enough since we were renting it in expensive areas with good schools. Unfortunately, both of my parents passed away before being able to realise that dream. My dad passed away when I was 17, and my mum passed away almost 3 years ago due to COVID. My fiancé grew up fairly wealthy. Like private schools, designer clothes, 3 to 4 international vacations per year, flying first or business class the whole way. I was able to attend college thanks to student loans, scholarships and part-time jobs, which delayed my graduation a bit, while her parents were able to fairly easily cover all expenses themselves. However, I'm the last person to say that my fiancée hasn't earned everything she's gotten. She's an extremely intelligent person, and besides funding her education, her parents are in no way responsible for her accomplishments. My fiancé and I met 6 years ago when we started working at the same company, in the same position, at the same time, after graduating from college. We hit it off almost instantly, and it didn't take long for us to start dating. Both of us still work at the company, however I've progressed through the career ladder a bit more quickly than she has, and now make just over twice what she does. I'll be the first to admit that this is completely undeserved, and I've benefited from a lot of luck, and definitely some sexism as well, since we work in a male-dominated field. Still, that has allowed me to aggressively attack my student loans, and once they were paid off, I put that into saving up for a down payment on a house, as a way to fulfill my parents' dreams. I proposed about 6 months ago, and things have been great so far. However, this past weekend, we were at her family's house, when her parents told us that for a wedding present, they were going to give us a house. My fiancé was overjoyed, and although I was also happy, I wanted to know the details as well. Pretty quickly, her parents told us that the house would be in her name only, and that they expected us to sign a prenup to protect any, and only, pre-marriage assets just in case. I was insulted that they thought I was after their money at all, since I make more money than she does anyway, and I ended up telling them that they can't call it a wedding present if they only give it to one person. I then told my fiancé I refuse to live in a house that I don't own, and she knows exactly why. All 3 of them got very upset with me. So, am I the a-hole? This is a really tricky one, honestly, because I can kind of understand the parents only wanting to put it in their daughter's name because they know her way better than they know him, but also you can understand his side of the coin as well. He's definitely not the a-hole, but the parents probably aren't either. Anyway, let's look at the comments. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I don't think they're terrible for wanting to give a nice gift, but also ensure their investment goes to her in the event of a divorce. In addition, I'm sure prenups are much more common and less offensive in their world. That said, you've been dating for 6 years. They know you. They presumably know your background, home ownership goals, etc. Also, a potential solution or suggestion. Between the 2 of you, own 2 homes and get some sweet Airbnb income on one of them. You will have a much easier time saving up for the second while living in the first. ETA, just make sure your home is covered in the prenup too. Not the a-hole. I wouldn't live in a house that was just owned by my wife, and vice versa, and I 100% have a real-world example. My wife is a stay-at-home mum, and when we bought our house she had no income and the bank wanted to leave her off the mortgage. I 100% refused, and even paid a smaller interest rate increase to make sure she knew it was both of our homes, and not just mine. She was pretty quiet about it. My wife is a quiet person, but later broke down crying about how much it made her feel like an equal in their marriage, and that I did so without her saying a word. Stick to your guns. Either it's a gift for both of you under both your names, or just buy your own house and fulfill that lifelong dream. This isn't really a judgment, but here's another perspective. Okay, I actually don't think you're after their money. Nothing you wrote indicates that's what they think. I would assume they are giving their daughter a valuable asset. It is clearly not a wedding gift, but a gift for their daughter. What would you do if your fiancé's parents went out and bought her a house today? It's then premarital property in her name. In your marriage, you get to live rent-free, mortgage-free, and spend money taking international vacations and wear designer clothes if you like. That's the gift. If you divorce, you get equity and she keeps the house. If she dies, you get the house. Would you refuse to live in this house and call off the wedding? I get why it's offensive, but you are not their child and they are still giving you something big, as long as you don't divorce their daughter. Also, prenups can be rearranged to ensure equity and an increased cut if she is at fault somehow. Example, she cheats in 10 years. I actually don't think they're being awful. And by the way, they aren't fairly wealthy. They seem very wealthy based on your post, unless their parents also bought their houses and educations and all that stuff. Yeah, I agree with these comments. It's a bit of a grey area. It's not really black and white, this situation. But yeah, this doesn't really sound like a wedding gift. This is more of a bridal gift, just for the bride, just for the daughter. So going by that, and probably what the first comment says, that sounds like a good idea. Have 2 homes, fulfill your dream, and rent one out and make money on the side. Sounds pretty good to me. Anyway, let's jump to the update. Edit/update. So I was requested to add some information that I included in the comments into my post, and I also just had a long conversation with my fiancé and my in-laws, so I have a small update to share as well. Here's the info from the comments. The hilarious part about the whole prenup conversation was that they basically said that they expected the prenup to only cover premarital and inherited assets. They said they would absolutely refuse to accept any clauses that include future assets. So if I want to own a home where only my name is on the title, I have to purchase it before the marriage and also make sure to never use any of my wife's money to pay the mortgage or anything. Apparently they already had their lawyer write the whole thing up, but wanted to give me a heads up so I can retain my own lawyer to review it. I have a suspicion that any lawyer is going to think it's massively unfair, just based on how they've described it, and I'm assuming they think that I'll just get a cheap lawyer because of my upbringing. Admittedly, I don't know any better, so this is kind of difficult for me to determine what's fair and isn't fair here, but it doesn't seem fair to me. Besides that though, it's also just a personal thing. I want to live in a house that I own, not them, not my wife alone. I'm happy to live in a home that both my wife and I own, but not one she owns on her own. I don't want someone else living in the home that I own. I want to live in it myself. I also should mention that currently my fiancé and I share our finances. She makes about $120k US and I make about $250k US. We split things according to income, so I pay around 2/3 and she pays around 1/3. Based on our conversations, my fiancé and I both expected this arrangement to continue after marriage. As for the update, well, I'll start with my fiancé's older sister, 29 female if it's relevant, calling me out of the blue a few hours ago to tell me that her parents did not ask her husband to sign a prenup before they got married. Both of my fiancé's sisters and my fiancé's brother-in-law were at the dinner where her parents talked about the house, so they both heard the whole conversation. My fiancé's sister thought I deserved to know. My fiancé's brother-in-law comes from a well-off family as well, but I don't know how well-off, or whether they're on the same level as my fiancé's family, or just upper middle class. Their wedding was pretty extravagant. My fiancé's family is white and American, as is the brother-in-law. I am Pakistani. I don't believe her parents are racist, but it seemed like this information was important according to the comments. Anyway, about 3 hours ago my fiancé finally came home. She had stayed at her parents' house because we'd gotten into quite the argument. I was expecting her to continue the argument, but she actually came and apologised straight away. Apparently, her younger sister, 22 female, chewed her out after I left her parents' house. She really laid into my fiancé on how she was being inconsiderate because everyone knew how important owning my home was to me. She also said that her parents weren't treating me right or equally. That made my fiancé see my side, as she said, but she was too embarrassed, which is why she didn't come home last night. If you can't tell, I'm a huge fan of my fiancé's little sister right now. She's also been a sort of no-nonsense firecracker type of girl, while my fiancé is a bit of a people-pleaser and definitely a daddy's girl, and she's kind of always vying for her father's approval. My fiancé has even said she knows she needs to work through that before we get married. I'm going to buy her sister a cupcake. Then I showed her the post, and she got pretty uncomfortable reading a lot of the comments, especially the ones saying that she doesn't care about me. She also got really uncomfortable when she read the comments about her parents being racist. I pressed on that a bit, and she went on to mention that they've never been overly racist, but they did make comments when we first started dating about being concerned about the future, specifically about our children looking different and being treated poorly by her family. They asked her many times if she was sure about me. Like I said, I don't believe they're racist, but I do understand that they probably have some biases. This was also the case when they said they didn't want to do any traditional Pakistani events for the wedding. That was fine for me anyway, so I didn't really care, but now it makes me think a bit. I explained to her how I was feeling, like I was going into this as an unequal partner, and she absolutely agreed that it wasn't fair. She even said that she was going to tell her parents that she was going to refuse to sign the prenup. I told her to slow down, because she was going between extremes. I told her that we still needed to get the prenup because her family was already having difficulty accepting me, and this was going to make it worse. However, I told her that under no circumstances was I signing anything her parents had in part in drafting, and that we would each retain our own lawyers outside of her parents' influence and get something that is fair and equitable. She agreed. We then talked about the house, and she said she was going to tell her parents that she wasn't going to accept unless both of our names were on it. I told her to slow down again, and I got her to agree to me paying for a quarter of it. My initial proposal was to pay half, but she said that what I said about it being a wedding present, so it should be for both of us, was true. So we came to the agreement that we would each get half ownership of the house, with her parents paying for 75% of it, and me using the money I have saved, plus a small mortgage for the other 25%. Both of our names will be on the title. We then called her parents together and told them our plan. They grumbled about it a bit initially, especially because her dad was still upset that I'd been so ungrateful, but eventually we were able to talk it through, and they agreed to the plan. I doubt that this is the last I hear about this, but at least for now, it seems like the situation is mostly resolved. Oh, so there you have it, guys. That's the end of that story. Let me know what you think in the comments. Sounds like it ended pretty well for OP there, although admittedly there probably are a few questions still hanging over his head about the new family. To be honest, I'm surprised that the mum and dad kind of let the deal happen. I thought maybe that it wasn't going to happen, there'd be this big twist, but either way, a pretty good ending all in all. Alright, let's jump to the next one. Okay, our next story was posted by user Substantial Oracle, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to honour my boyfriend's family tradition? My boyfriend Eric, 29 male, fake name, and I, 27 female, have been dating for 3 years. For context, I have met his family and they are friendly. We don't meet them very often because they live in my boyfriend's home country. I don't want to reveal country names either for privacy reasons, but my boyfriend and I are of different nationalities and we both work in my country. The conflict happened during our last visit last weekend. We've been looking up houses to move in together and engagement rings. While we were having dinner, we mentioned this to his family, as it's a big step in our relationship for us. We are not engaged yet. His parents and brothers expressed their happiness for us. Then out of nowhere, his youngest sister-in-law asks, So, is she going to take the test? I asked, What test? In summary, boyfriend's family has this tradition where the future mother-in-law tests future daughters-in-laws to see if they are good enough for her sons. Apparently his mother and aunts went through the same test. The tests include how clean they can keep a home, how well they can cook, their manners, etc. Basically life skills most people learn from childhood. I found it ridiculous because 1, if I'm good enough for my boyfriend, he should be the one deciding it, and 2, I don't fit in their targeted category. In his mum's words, you can't be a good stay-at-home wife and stay-at-home mother if you can't be a good homemaker, and she wants to make sure of that. To be clear, his mum and all 3 of his brothers' wives are stay-at-home mums, and although I respect their choice, I'm not quitting my career and did not under any circumstances make my boyfriend think I could compromise on that. I hate house chores, and I'd rather buy homemaking gadgets and hire staff, no matter the cost, than have to do chores myself. I told my boyfriend's mum all this, and it caused an argument that eventually ruined dinner, and in extension, our visit. Boyfriend doesn't care whether I'm a working wife or stay-at-home wife, but he thinks I should have just done the test because it's just a test, and it's not like they would reject me if I failed it. He thinks it's a fun tradition that everyone was looking forward to, and I should have gone along with it anyways. My boyfriend thinks I'm the a-hole, and suggested I make this post. If I really am the jerk, I'm sure you guys will let me know. So, am I? Edit. Adding this as it's been coming up. I know disclosing the country may or may not bring up some unwanted arguments that will violate the rules here, but just for context, it's a family tradition, not a national culture. This is interesting. Like, obviously the idea of a test to win the approval of the mum is kind of a bit outdated, to say the least. And obviously that's not okay, but I have a feeling Opie is probably making it out to be a little bit more intense and a little bit more extreme than this quote-unquote test actually is. I get a feeling it's more of just a light-hearted kind of bonding experience thing, rather than an actual test with stakes and stuff. Anyway, I could be wrong. Let's look at the comments. He thinks it's a fun tradition for women marrying into the family to be judged on their skills in traditional old-fashioned gender-conforming roles. Fine. Let him take a test. He can rotate the tyres, change the oil and maybe rework the transmission on a car, install a new muffler while he's at it. Then he can perform a series of tests of lifting heavy objects. How are his plumbing skills? He's going to need to know how to fix a leaky faucet. Your father and brothers and male friends can judge him on his manliness and decide if he is prepared to be a proper husband. He might also need to prove he makes enough money to support for you when you have to stay at home and perform all those wifely duties. What an obnoxious family. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. What test is your boyfriend going to take to prove he's good enough for you? The boyfriend's test was telling his mother that Opie wouldn't be doing this stupid test. The boyfriend failed. Not the a-hole. It sounds demeaning and patronising as heck. If your boyfriend thinks you're good enough for him, you shouldn't have to prove yourself to anyone else. Alright guys, let's jump to the update. Several things have happened since my post, and I received requests for an update, so here it is. This will be my only update. I got a lot of insight from the votes and comments in my original post, and I would like to thank you all for that. I showed my boyfriend the responses and judgment on the original post. Most of you felt I was not the a-hole, and like you would guess, he was upset by this judgment. He tried to make his own post, but was the a-hole so badly he deleted it in less than an hour. Anyway, I talked to my family and told them about the test. Yesterday they called us home for dinner, and told him they would let me take his family's test if he let my dad and male cousins put him through a similar test. He blew up about how ridiculous it is, because it's a family tradition for his family, but for mine it's something we came up with at random. He ended up saying it's okay if I don't do the test, but my parents and I were being childish. He let slip mid-argument that his younger sister-in-law didn't want to do the test either, but look at her, the perfect wife. He said a lot of things, but long story short, he is still supportive of whatever I want to do with my life after marriage, but his family will never think the same way. However, I was starting to see a pattern, so I asked to take a break. It was great while it lasted. It's not a fun or cute update, but there you go. Time for me to binge watch heartbreaking movies with a giant tub of ice cream. Once again, thank you for the comments and judgment. Oh, well there you go guys, that's the end of that one. Seems like this problem was enough for Opie to kind of ask for a break from her boyfriend. I honestly didn't really expect it to go that far, but here we are. Either way, let me know what you guys think in the comments, and we'll head off to our last story for today. Alright, so our final story was written by user WearyNetwork3174, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for shaving my stepdaughter's legs? I'm female 29, married to my husband, male 35, who has a child, female 12, from his previous relationship with female 37. My husband and I currently are visiting his daughter in her hometown. One of the things we did is we went to Target shopping. Before going, I asked my stepdaughter's mum what she's allergic or sensitive to, what she's not allowed to have, etc., because my stepdaughter tends to copy what I'm purchasing for myself. Her mum said she's not allowed any makeup, and that otherwise she's not sensitive or allergic to anything. While at Target, my stepdaughter really likes some shorts, but she refused to get them because she does not wear shorts outside, even in summer, because her legs are really hairy, and her mum doesn't allow her to shave. She's a brunette with really thick hair. My husband and I were really surprised to hear this. I didn't have any shaving leg restrictions growing up. We asked around. My sister-in-law, my stepmum, some friends, and everyone said they were allowed to shave, or their mum would help them shave. We had one more activity planned, going to the water park, and my stepdaughter refused because she was ashamed to wear her swimsuit. She loves water parks though. My husband used to have a whole membership thing in one for her. So I offered to shave her legs, and she agreed. I used high-quality products, and she loved the feel of smooth legs. Her mum saw her legs hairless, and sent my husband very angry emails calling us jerks. Am I the a-hole? That's a tricky one. You can kind of understand the argument that it's kind of sexualizing young girls a bit too quickly, but on the other hand, if it's affecting the daughter so much that it's, to the point of her not being able to enjoy herself or being incredibly self-conscious about her legs, then let her shave her legs. Who cares? It kind of makes you think that the mum is too scared to watch her daughter grow up. And just for the record, I don't think a 12-year-old having shaved legs is sexualizing them in any way. That's just what some people think for some reason. Maybe touch base with the mum first and express the pros and cons before you go and do something like that. Either way, I'm going to go with not the a-hole. I made a trigger list for my friend, and I think it's going to break our friendship. Obvious trigger warning mentions of abuse. I, male, have a friend, female, I've known for years. She came from an abusive family and has had abusive ex-boyfriends one after another, until she finally met her current boyfriend. He has tried to be understanding of her, but he was at the end of his rope. My friend has all sorts of trauma she needs to deal with. Personally, I think she shouldn't be in relationships until she's faced her trauma. Personal thought, it's not something I've ever vocalized. I'll give you some examples. She hyperventilated when she broke his mug. Had an ex that got violent when she accidentally broke his things. She freaked out when her boyfriend mentioned he plays darts. Her brother used to throw darts at her for fun. I think she got hit once on her foot. She packed up her things when her boyfriend brought home a specific brand of detergent. Her parents would use that brand to burn her eyes or wash her mouth with soap. Anyway, I made a list of all her triggers. What not to do and what to do, such as when she's cleaning to leave her alone. I never explained what were the reasons for the triggers, the do's or don'ts. I figure that was a discussion for the two of them. Anyway, fast forward to 3 months and their relationship got better until something triggered her that wasn't on the list. Her boyfriend panicked, asked her what to do as the situation wasn't in the list. When she finally calmed down, she asked me about the list. He gave her the details, and now she's ticked at me as she said I violated her trust and privacy. Honestly, I was just trying to help. Was I so in the wrong? Opie then elaborates in the comments. There are times I've gone low contact, then she sends a message she needs me or asking for help. Sometimes she can just be draining. I thought about going no contact. Other people in my life have suggested that as they don't want to be around me when they're around her. Then I feel crappy about myself thinking about going no contact. Something happens again making me want to go non-contact. Then I feel bad for her. I know it's not her fault she's the way she is, it's just exhausting at times. Whatever I wrote was just the less mess up things that happened to her. There are people that actually went through real trauma. People that were physically, psychologically, and maybe even SA abuse. Genetic natural craziness was not the cause of me bringing her to the ER at the middle of the night because her ex tried to bash her head on the wall. Nor did genetic craziness cause her parents to hurt their own daughter almost on a daily basis. Nor did genetic craziness cause her siblings to turn on one another so that her parents don't pick on them for that day. I didn't think I was secretly making a list. When we would get together and she tells me things, my go-to line is, "That's another one to add to the list." Some of her reactions to triggers are not as bad as the ones I listed above. Like for example, a certain smell can make her sad, or a certain food would make her lose her appetite. Alrighty guys, it sounds like a pretty tricky situation. Let's jump straight into the comments. You're allowed to feel anything you feel. You are not allowed to force those feelings onto everyone around you. Best advice I ever got from a trauma therapist. There is a very thin wobbly line between care and enabling. Your friend needs help. So as somebody with severe post-traumatic stress, CPTSD and normal PTSD, you are absolutely not in the wrong for that, because she refused to communicate triggers to her boyfriend, so somebody's got to communicate those triggers. Basically, the only way she's not going to be triggered by one of her boyfriends is if he sits inside of a little glass box and never speaks. She needs to get into freaking therapy, bro. Someone needs to advise the boyfriend to leave this toxic situation where he can't even breathe without sending her into the stratosphere. This is ridiculous. You making him lists to basically avoid life is enabling your friend to not face reality. If a coworker walked into an elevator wearing some cologne whose scent reminded me of some horrid experience, is it really reasonable for me to ask them to no longer wear that cologne? Of course not. Stop coddling her and push her to get help. Alrighty guys, let's get straight to the update. Just to clarify, many Reddit users mentioned we should encourage my friend to go to therapy. We have. on multiple occasions, and she has gone to them and had multiple therapists. She either thinks that it's not effective, or she doesn't have enough money to continue them. There are a lot of government assistances, yes, but once it does run out, you pay out of pocket, or a therapist you work with does not qualify or work with the government assistance program. To put it in a term most will understand, if it's a choice between electricity or therapy, which would you choose? My friend, her boyfriend, or maybe ex or soon-to-be, and I met to talk to her at her boyfriend's house. She said her side, that I broke her trust, that I had told her boyfriend, which I guess let's just call Ben, all of her triggers. She asked me how I would feel if she wrote down every single insecurity I had and gave it to my girlfriend, if I had one. I explained to her that I didn't see the list as insecurities, but rather triggers that Ben needed to avoid. I mentioned to her that I just wanted them to coexist without him accidentally triggering her. I apologised I made the list, and that I should have asked or told her directly that Ben came to me for help regarding their relationship, and I had no business making the list. She said that I violated her trust, and that sorry wasn't good enough. She said that she wanted to go no contact with me, as I have a saviour complex, and meddled in something that didn't involve me. That's when Ben spoke out, and said it did involve me as I was her go-to person. It did involve me as he involved me into the relationship by him asking for my advice. He pretty much gave his piece on how he felt suffocated in the relationship, unhappy, and that her mystery and quirkiness wore off on him a couple of months ago when she would have her episodes, but with no real explanation what they were, what happened or whatever. He did say he was really in love with her, but gave her 2 ultimatums. First is she goes to therapy. Second is that she doesn't cut me off, as he thinks I didn't do anything wrong and has been a good friend and would be one of the few people that will support her through her journey. That's when she lost it and accused us of gaslighting her. She said we didn't understand her. She said she was entitled in how she was feeling, such as betrayed by the person she trusted, and at the very end, she even said that we may be into one another, as this was some sort of ploy to get rid of her so that we could start dating. Just to clarify, her boyfriend and I are both straight. I went from disbelief to anger to just numb. I told her that I agreed to go no contact, wished her well, and left. I could hear her on her rant while I was leaving. I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. She is honestly one of the sweetest, kindest, and even funniest person I've met when she's on her good days. She has also been my confidant. I've shared with her both burden and joy through the years. I've shared with her about my effed up family. It's not as bad as hers, but something I don't share with just anyone. I thought I'd be more upset when she wanted to go no contact with me, but I just feel relieved. That must sound horrible. I really didn't expect to feel like this. Maybe I am really a bad friend. Ben texted me that night. He is thinking of breaking up with her. He's just scared that if he does, she may harm herself, although she hasn't expressed anything for now. He might look into the process of getting her committed if things escalate. I honestly don't know what to do. I don't think she has any other meaningful relationships other than us. Sure, she does have other friends, but I don't know anyone else that she actually turns to. I do have her mum's number, but she was one of my friend's abusers, so I'm not sure if sending her mum a message would be a good idea. I think I'll be going back to therapy. I told Ben that he may need a therapist too. I think his college provides a couple of free sessions. Gee, this is a tricky one, isn't it, guys? In my opinion, I think this girl sounds like she likes to be the victim. She always wants to be the center of attention and kind of uses these trigger buzzwords like gaslighting and constantly talking about triggers like it's some sort of attention-seeking ploy. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of what this sounds like to me. And to be honest, over the long term, that's very manipulative and kind of abusive to both him and Ben, the boyfriend. I think she definitely needs help, and OP and the boyfriend probably just need to cut her out of their lives and move on. I don't necessarily think they need therapy, but I mean, I can't really speak for them, can I? But I think them removing her from their lives would probably be the best thing for them in the long term. Alrighty, let's jump straight to the next story. This one was posted on the Nenny subreddit, and it's written by user DDMessup234, and it's titled, Was I Wrong to Do This? Some context. Been with this family 6 months. I usually work 2 to 8 p.m. Kiddo is 5 years old and in school. She doesn't nap when I'm there, and I leave when she goes to bed. Sunday night, I was doing a date night for the parents, put the kiddo to bed as usual bedtime, and retired downstairs to watch TV. About an hour later, I hear crying and kiddo calling for me. I head upstairs and she's very upset. I'm pretty sure she had a bad dream, but couldn't vocalise it well. She asked me to stay with her, and I agreed. This is potentially where I messed up. I laid beside her and stroked her hair, rubbed her back, etc., in an attempt to help her settle. The parents returned 15 minutes later. The dad was very upset when he came in the room and asked why I was in the bed. By this time, I'd gotten up and the mum was laying in the bed. I explained she had a nightmare and had asked me to lay with her. He didn't say anything else, and I didn't think much of it after that, figuring he understood. I was paid and left. Monday morning, MB texted me that kiddo was sick, so I didn't have to come in. Figured that might explain her waking up. This morning, DB called me and said that they were very disturbed to find me laying in bed. He said it was very inappropriate. I could barely get a word in when I was informed I would have the rest of the week off with pay while they debated my future with their family. This is my first nanny job. I honestly thought this was okay. Was I wrong? Alright, let's get straight into the comments for this one. Wow, I've had multiple positions where I was required to lay in bed with a child until they fell asleep. I would quit while you're ahead. Reactionary employers never get better, at least not in the time span of one nanny position. Save yourself the headache and send them something like, quote, "Hi Mum and Dad. After some consideration, I feel it is best for us to part ways. I think communication is vital in a nanny-parent relationship, and your lack of communication and subsequent reaction on an uncommon boundary has me feeling uneasy about this dynamic. I will not tolerate having my integrity questioned after a simple attempt to comfort your child after a nightmare using common childcare methods. The boundary itself is not an issue, but your behaviour in settling this boundary is unacceptable. This is my 2 weeks' notice, and I wish you all the best moving forward." End quote. I think it's a bit crazy that he would immediately jump to that conclusion. They hired you because they trusted you on some level to take care of their child. I've been asked to lie down with most of my kids, and nobody has ever made me feel weird for it. What an uncomfortable situation to be in for you. OP replies, "To be fair, he hasn't accused me of anything and flat out said he doesn't believe I did anything, because one thing I did manage to get in was, 'I hope you aren't accusing me of hurting her,' and he quickly squashed that. At the same time, he felt a huge boundary had been crossed and I acted inappropriately." It's okay for parents to have a boundary of no laying in bed with the kid. It's not okay for them to never voice this boundary and then suspend or potentially fire you over it. There are so many nuanced situations in this line of work that some people would view as inappropriate and others wouldn't think twice about. What your nanny family should have done is say something like, "In the future, we are not comfortable with you laying in bed with nanny kid," and that's that. If they don't believe you harmed nanny kid, and you have no idea this was inappropriate to them, what is there to debate? Your best move is probably to start searching for a new family. So sorry this happened to you. OP replies, "From what I understand, the dad feels I made a bad judgment call and is now calling my decision-making skills into account. In his mind, this is just common sense, and even if I were innocent, I should have known better. As I type it out, it really makes no sense." Oh boy, this is complicated. Let's get to the update. So I had my Skype with the parents about an hour ago, and I feel like I had whiplash. Started great and ended terribly. As soon as I answered, the mum said, "Tell us your side." I did, explaining I felt this was the best way to comfort the kid. I added that I understand it's a boundary and I won't do it again, but all boundaries need to be made clear to me. I said I spoke with a group of fellow nannies who both agreed it's not common sense, but also that the boundary wasn't unreasonable. It's just that they need to communicate this to me, as well as how to handle this should it happen again. They seemed receptive. The dad explained why he acted the way he did, and I won't get into it here, but it is trauma-based. He reiterated he doesn't think I did anything to the girl. They love me, they appreciate me, etc. We came up with a plan on what to do should it happen again. I'll sit in a chair by the kid's bed. At this point, I was thinking maybe we could turn it around. I know many of you said just quit, but I wanted to try to avoid that. Well, then the call got awkward. I thought the conversation was done once they laid out their boundaries, but the dad kept talking and kept questioning if it really wasn't common sense. He implied that he felt I was gaslighting him, not with those words, but more of, I don't think I'm wrong to feel this way and I don't appreciate you trying to change the narrative. I stressed several times that I don't think his boundary is wrong, but how he went about it was. This led to a discussion of cameras. I'm their first nanny, so they asked my opinion upon hiring. I said I'd work with them if they really felt needed, but I just find them awkward and like I can't truly be myself. At the time they agreed against it, but now the dad wants to put cameras up in every room until I rebuild trust. It was a complete 180 from his previous "we love you" speech. I said that hurt. He said, how am I supposed to trust you when you haven't apologized? For frickin' what? Finally, I said I can't work somewhere where I'm not trusted and I can't risk them falsely accusing me of something. The mum got very upset and tried to apologize on behalf of her husband. I said no. Another 5 awkward minutes of settling out particulars, mailing back their keys and such, them paying me severance as they declined me serving a 2 weeks notice. It sucks because I love the kid and I won't get to say goodbye, but you're all right. His fears are based in trauma and I get it, but if they're this bad, he needs therapy. Anyway, thanks for all the advice. I tried to get back to everyone, but there was a lot, haha. Okay, so that's the end of that one, guys. Gee, I think that was probably the only way that could have ended. Yeah, clearly the dad had some past issues that he hasn't dealt with, and the babysitter has their boundaries pretty clearly set. So I imagine that's probably the only way that thing could have gone. If I was the babysitter, I probably would have left as well. Let me know what you guys think. Would you have left or would you have tried to work it out? Alrighty, I'm going to leave you guys with one more story from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was posted by Cheapsill and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting my sister-in-law use my wedding dress for her wedding, even though she can't afford one? My 28 female younger brother, 24 male, and his fiancée, 23 female, are supposed to get married in the spring after being engaged for about a year. My younger brother has always been the golden child between the both of us to my mum, not to my dad. Him and his fiancée currently live with her, rent-free might I add. My dad and I, on the other hand, have mixed feelings about this wedding. We both feel like my brother is rushing into things and not being financially smart. He just finished his bachelor program a year ago, is still trying to get on his feet and find a good full-time job in his field, and decides to spend thousands of dollars on a wedding? We sat him down and explained this to him, and asked him what the rush was. Why not push it off for a few years and save up, so you guys can really have the wedding of your dreams? He explained to us that his fiancée wants the wedding as soon as possible, and doesn't want to wait. Well, his fiancée's family is pitching in a couple thousand for the wedding. My dad reluctantly is pitching in a couple thousand as well, all important later. Well, a few nights ago I'm eating dinner with my husband when I get a call from my future sister-in-law. Convo starts out normal, hey, how are you? Crappy weather we're having, etc., etc., until she tells me she has a serious question to ask me. She asks me if she can use my wedding dress that I wore to my wedding just over a year ago. She explains that she can't afford one herself, that she absolutely loves mine, and that it would be her something borrowed. I immediately shut her down and said I'm sorry, but no, this is thousands of dollars dress we're talking about, that she'd have to get altered to her fit too, by the way, so no way. We're also not even close at all and barely talk, so like, WTF? She starts begging and even starts crying and going on about how she can't afford one. I told her, I'm sorry, but no. She then starts going on about how I'm not even financially helping her and my brother pay for the wedding, so the least I can do is let her use my dress. I told her the honest truth, that I think they're rushing into having a wedding and not being financially smart. She says she didn't care. She has a timeline and wants to be married by 25. I basically said to her that she made her bed, so now she has to lie in it and figure it out herself. And if she can't afford her wedding dress, then she shouldn't be having a wedding. Simple as that. She ran back to my mum and my brother to tell them what I said. They think I'm an a-hole because I have the money to financially help my brother and his fiancée, but I'm being selfish and unsupportive. They also think it's just a dress, so what's the big deal? My dad is on my side and defending me, and is now thinking of taking back his financial help due to the sheer audacity of my brother's fiancée asking me such a thing. Alright guys, so there you go. What do you guys think? Are they the a-hole or not the a-hole? Personally, I'm going to go with no. I think OP's pretty right about her brother rushing into things. I mean, he's only 24 and his fiance's 23. That's still very young this day and age. Also, why do people have these timelines on what they need to do things by? Like, I need to be married by 25. I need to have 2 kids by 30. Like, I don't know why people put these deadlines on these huge life events. I feel like you're just setting yourself up for stress and disappointment when you realize that that's just not feasibly possible at that point in your life. Like, just chill out and take life as it comes. Don't try and preempt things, you know? Anyway, that's just me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Alright, so that's it from me today. Thanks for listening. Make sure to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.